Several years have passed since the first dungeon appeared in Japan in 2x28. Named the Rift of Babel, people from all over the world flocked to Japan seeking wealth and fame. Among them is Toyama Naruhito, who reveals himself as one of these explorers. In a harsh, rocky environment under a moonlit sky, a monstrous creature with a single eye and sharp teeth crouches, preparing to attack. The creature lunges forward with deadly force, but the explorer stands ready. Explaining that an explorer earns money by slaying monsters and finding treasures, he commands to run as the monster charges, facing a group of lurking creatures with multiple eyes. The explorer taunts the beast, calling it a damn monkey and pointing out its true opponent is someone else. He declares these fighters are modern-day 49ers, referencing Gold Rush prospectors, not the football team, as he skillfully counters the monster's attack with a powerful strike. He strikes fiercely, smashing the monster's skull with brutal force. In this industry, where death is commonplace, he fights with a grim smile, fully aware of the risks. Blood drips from his mouth as he acknowledges that it wouldn't be strange to be called a veteran. Suddenly, a sharp claw pierces his side, causing him to stagger. The beast screeches wildly, but he retaliates with a powerful blow, commanding it to shut up. A hole in the ground marks the aftermath of the battle. He reflects that his time as a veteran will end today, despite the carnage. A faint smirk crosses his bloodied face as he realizes he missed one monster. Exhausted and breathing heavily, he surveys the battlefield. He wonders how many have died and if the last monster managed to escape, his expression shadowed by fatigue and concern. He breathes out quietly, longing for a home. He imagines building it by a lake, picturing a peaceful house with a stunning view. A faint, tired smile breaks through his bloodied face as he admits it would be a damn fine view. His gaze shifts to the ground, where dark stains and claw marks mar the earth. He mutters to himself that his hard drive needs to be dealt with. His steps unsteady as he walks away from the scene. With a bitter grin, he taunts the lingering monkey monsters, daring them to face him. His smile fades as he sighs, admitting he really screwed up and that this is going to kill him. He walks forward, burdened but resolute. His thoughts drift to a simpler life, hopping into a sauna before dawn, cooling off in the lake, and enjoying freshly baked bread served by his own baker. He imagines a peaceful existence, something like that, as he continues onward. He admits he wanted to build a house of his own but regrets trying to act cool. Walking through tall grass, he imagines building a house, then raising a dog, hearing a faint woof in his mind. He pictures a big, fluffy dog, like a Shiba Inu, and himself happily petting it. He dreams of going out to drink with friends, enjoying good food, and living life fully. Then his thoughts trail off uncertain. His legs buckle, and he collapses onto the grass with a soft comma, falling face down. The weight of exhaustion overwhelms him as he lies still on the ground. Lying prone, he curses his fate, confessing he doesn't want to die in the dungeon. He recalls having the makings of an explorer, no qualms about killing monsters, and growing accustomed to the scent of their blue blood. He reflects on finally becoming a senior explorer just as things were starting to get fun. But now all he feels is the desperate will to survive. He recalls always taking training seriously, mastering efficient killing methods that gave him little trouble when collecting monster materials. He never neglected preparation, never overestimated himself, and ran away when survival demanded it. He killed monsters, stripped their materials, and turned them into money, claiming treasure as his own, reflecting on how many he killed. He admits it's fair that he might be killed too. His hand presses into the grass as he regrets not running away sooner. He became an explorer to make his dreams reality and live life his own way, facing the harsh reality of his choices. He remembers finally starting to think life was enjoyable and that his miserable existence was supposed to improve. But in the end, death is final, and today feels like the day for him to die. Lying face down in the grass, he questions where he messed up, wondering if it was when he accepted this request. He recalls it was supposed to be a routine habitat survey, pondering quietly as he sits at a desk. He recalls shouting for his comrades to run as he covered them, questioning if he ever truly had comrades at all. Faces of two smiling comrades flash in his memory, but doubt creeps in as he wonders if that was real or just an illusion. The grass rustles quietly, leaving the question hanging. Lying face down, he wonders if becoming an explorer was a mistake. Tears stream down his face as he admits it was fun. Fighting, killing, earning money, eating delicious food, indulging, he promises himself that next time, things will be different. Determined, he vows not to make the same mistake again. He swears to unleash everything without holding back, spamming his trump cards from the start. Blood drips from his mouth as he struggles to speak, but his resolve is clear. Suddenly, he notices something nearby. He spots a strange phenomenon, liquefaction, around him and realizes with a grim smile that he's a dead man. Meanwhile, another figure moves nearby, their hand crackling with energy as the danger closes in. A voice urgently calls out to Naruhito, asking if he can hear them. The voice reports they have linked up with the Self-Defense Forces rescue team and that everyone, including Hina, is safe. They urge Naruhito to return so it will be a complete victory. Naruhito, struggling in a liquefying substance, tells Hadamura he has little time and needs a favor. Hadamura, confused but willing, asks what it is. Naruhito orders him to delete all files of silver-haired elves and silver-haired airhead vampires from his hard drive. Hadamura scolds him for such ominous talk as Naruhito sinks further. Naruhito reassures himself that things are fine now, his comrades are alive, and he entrusted them with his hard drive. He decides to call this his victory, smiling despite his dire situation as the liquefaction continues to engulf him. He laughs, exhilarated by the blast of his attack, vowing to do even better next time. He dreams aloud of earning money, building a house, maybe opening a shop, and being freer to explore and go on adventures. His thoughts drift to simple joys. Money, food, family, a dog with hopeful resolve. The narration shifts to after Naruhito's terminal response vanished on the second level. A large-scale liquefaction occurred at that spot. Rescue teams rushed to the last known location but could not find his body. The Explorer Association later requested a search team. It is noted that such teams gather when there is blood, emphasizing the grim reality of the situation. Not a soul alive knows Tsuyima's whereabouts. The darkness surrounds him as he realizes the truth. He is dead. A faint sound reaches him, and he questions if he can hear something. A giant hand gently lifts him, and a voice thanks him for enjoying a miniature garden. The voice reveals that he also held the possibility of becoming Darling. The voice explains that he is not Darling, though similar, praising his greed and perseverance, but it is pointless here. He is already dead. This place is the miniature garden, Darling's grave, and the place of his ending. The voice asks if he is fine with it ending here. The voice allows him to continue, though this place is forbidden since his end has already come here. It reassures him there is a place perfectly suited for him where he may yet become Darling. The voice looks forward to all his experiences and journey, which will lead him to Darling. A luminous, flowing form offers a gift meant to clarify life's path. A guidance arrow, to aid understanding. It hints that the greedy life continues, or perhaps transforms, as the ethereal strands swirl mysteriously. The scene shifts to a figure surrounded by darkness and light, symbolizing a transition. The voice explains that the modern dungeon life persists in an open world, transferring mementos, explorer depth, and acquired capabilities into skills. Though some errors occur, traits like blunt weapon handling, dog-loving nature, and hopeless luck with women are retained. A special gift is granted. The Sacrament quest marker, favoring bad endings. The perspective moves to two shadowed figures sitting in a dim, cluttered room. The sound of rattling crates breaks the silence, and a man struggles, groaning with discomfort. The man awakens, confused, noticing chains on his wrists and a glowing arrow hovering nearby. He reacts with a puzzled expression, turning his head toward the mysterious marker, signaling the start of a new phase in his journey. He questions if he's dreaming as a glowing arrow appears nearby. Catching his attention, confused, he mutters about the arrow, then hears a voice asking if he has finally woken up. His expression shifts to shock and confusion as he processes this unexpected greeting. The glowing arrow hovers above a tall, muscular reptilian humanoid wearing a simple shirt. The creature looks up at the arrow with a puzzled expression, silently questioning its meaning. He recalls dying not only from a stomach stab wound but also from a strange liquefaction phenomenon. Then waking up in an unfamiliar place. Shocked, he mutters, "No way," as a quest marker appears above a lizard man, labeled, "Main Quest, Adventurer Slave." The lizard man asks if he has finally awakened, adding to the strangeness with a weird arrow hovering nearby. The lizard man explains they both tried to bypass the town's checkpoint and are now being transported as adventurer slaves. Meaning they're out of luck, the man responds with a tired, "Is that so?" While the lizard man offers bread he made, asking if he would like some. The man, puzzled, asks what's happening. The lizard man apologizes quietly, sensing unease. The man doubts wanting something made by a lizardian, but the lizard man insists, offering the bread again. A third lizard man excitedly reacts to the bread, showing eagerness. The man nervously asks if he's really supposed to eat it, and when he does, he smiles brightly, declaring it tastes just the way he likes it. The lizard man, surprised, covers his face in disbelief. The man notes the bread vanished, while the lizard man contemplates that the man thinks it's good. The man notices his handcuffs and questions them, but the lizard man warns to be quiet, calling them slaves. The lizard man remarks that some therianthropes have good ears and that the handcuffs are easy to pick. The man wonders if they stopped moving, and the lizard man solemnly offers gratitude to their ancestors. The man admits the lizard man is the only good person here since he gave him bread. The lizard man cautions that therianthropes are short-tempered and might kill them if annoyed. Then, quietly opens the cell door to leave. Outside, groups of therianthropes escort wagons through a paved street. Two cat-eared women notice the man and whisper about their resemblance, wondering if they are sisters. The man struggles under the weight of a large figure carrying him, who grunts heavily. The man tries to keep up, telling the carrier to come on, accepting the situation with a forced smile. The man looks around, noting the presence of therianthropes. Suddenly, a large wolf-like therianthrope calls out to him, accusing him of ogling the cat-eared women. The man is struck hard on the head, grimacing in pain. The wolf snarls that a lowly slave like him should know his place, asserting dominance aggressively. The man rubs his sore arm, acknowledging the pain feels real. The wolf therianthropes laugh loudly, mocking him as they call him Spoon, and blame him for causing trouble. The lizard man checks on the man, asking if he can stand and explaining this is how adventurer slaves are treated. The man asks if adventurers mean those affiliated with the guild. The lizard man confirms they are slaves used as mine canaries. The man reflects that this dream is complex but says he's ready for whatever comes, with a good memory in his heart. Confused, he wonders what kind of dream this is as voices shout about stopping the dragon priestess's noise and not forgetting the inspection. He questions if he's dead while a wolf-like figure angrily calls him adult and orders him to hurry. He recalls hearing someone speak as he was sinking. Realizing he must move quickly, the crowd's hostile shouts echo, demanding he just die. A wolf therianthrope strikes him hard, warning that lizardians shouldn't talk. The lizard man on the ground is accused of hiding something. The wolf mocks him for sneaking food past the overseer, calling him a petty thief. The lizard man admits he just didn't want anyone to starve and throws the food down. The crowd of wolf therianthropes jeers, insulting the lizardians as a barbaric, cursed race that only invades and steals bread. The lizard man sadly watches the bread fall, while the man with him laments the waste. He picks up the bread, surprised by its condition, and prepares to eat it. Both eat the bread quietly, crunching and chomping. The man smiles, declaring it was good. He asks if there's more bread, offering to pay next time. The lizard man nervously replies that was the last of it, while the man thanks him for the food, breaking the tense atmosphere. The wolf therianthropes grow irritated, one snapping that this is the third time they've been provoked and asking who the newcomer is. The man turns his back to them, declaring that those who waste food are a special kind of trash, and those who trample on others' creations are worse than monsters. He reveals himself as an explorer who slays monsters. He firmly decides not to betray his desires, vowing to live greedily led by them. He warns he won't compromise, even in a dream, and will beat anyone who angers him. The wolves challenge him to try, but he retorts sharply, telling one to take a shower because he reeks like an animal. The wolf yells insults, calling him a damn monkey. The man swiftly strikes, breaking the wolf's weapon with a powerful blow, mocking its low quality. The wolf reels back in pain, clutching his face as the man taunts him to come on. Another wolf notes an amateur dropping his weapon. Acknowledging one down, the man slices through a second wolf, declaring 2 down. He recognizes the one who hit him and the lizard man, calling it revenge time. The fight intensifies as he prepares to strike again. He grins fiercely, declaring an eye for an eye, as he drives his sword into the wolf's eye. Then, with cold resolve, he adds, and a stomach for a stomach, you know? While the wolf staggers, wounded fatally. A notification pops up, optional goal achieved. Eliminate the adventurers, main goal updated. Escape the adventurers' encirclement. He remarks this is handy. The lizard man praises him, asking if he's injured, but he brushes it off, saying this isn't the time to waste. The group prepares to move as enemies close in. He laughs, noting the gray goblins are finally reacting. Shadows of goblins call out, "Let's kill!" He reassures the lizard man he won't hold back anymore, ready to fight with full force. Calmly, he commands to fill this place. As a smoky mist swirls around them, the lizard man and others stand behind him, ready for the coming battle. Confused voices question the sudden appearance of thick fog, wondering where the enemies sent vanished to despite still being on the first floor of Yahello Tower. One warns another to stay back as they grip weapons tightly. Tuyama Naruhito calmly tells the lizard man to move out, startling him. Laughing, Tuyama urges the lizard man to follow as he pulls him along, teasing about the fog and encouraging their allies to get more pumped up to wipe out their foes. The foggy silhouettes of slaves hear the call to escape now or never, sparking hope that they might actually get away. The plan succeeds as Tuyama cheerfully urges the lizard man forward. The lizard man hesitantly agrees, and Tuyama explains he sees a game-like arrow marker pointing the way to escape, calling it user-friendly and helpful. Suddenly, Tuyama slips, losing his footing as he stumbles forward. Tuyama screams in alarm as he falls down a steep slope, the lizard man chasing after him desperately. The descent is rapid and chaotic, with dust and debris flying as they tumble uncontrollably downward, the arrow marker fading into the distance. A man with slicked-back hair addresses a woman standing on a large, coiled object bathed in light, calling her "my lady." He announces that the time has come and that the armor cleaning is finished. The woman, with long hair and dark horns, dismisses the news as boring, while a maid stands silently beside her. The woman contemplates her endless boredom and considers praying to the angels, hoping for someone to come and end her monotony. The man and maid bow respectfully behind her as she grips a long staff, a faint smile playing on her lips. He recalls dying from a stomach stab and a strange liquefaction, then waking up somewhere unfamiliar, shocked. He mutters disbelief as a lizard man beside him asks if he's finally awake. Above the lizardman's head, a quest marker reads, "Main Quest, Adventurer Slave." He notes the odd arrow pointing at the lizard man, adding to the strangeness. The lizard man explains they both tried to bypass the town checkpoint and are now being transported as adventurer slaves. The man responds with a tired, "Is that so?" as the lizard man offers bread he made, asking if he'd like some. The man wonders what's happening, and the lizard man apologizes quietly. The man doubts wanting something made by a lizardian, but the lizard man offers the bread again. Another slave eagerly exclaims excitement for the bread, prompting the man to accept. The man asks if he's really going to eat it, and when the lizard man confirms, he bites in and declares it delicious, just how he likes it. The lizard man is surprised but pleased, covering his face shyly. The man notes the quest arrow has vanished, and the lizard man acknowledges his approval with a quiet, "I see." The man notices his handcuffs and questions them, but the lizard man warns to be quiet, explaining some therianthropes have sharp ears. The lizard man reflects that their conversation isn't quite meshing, but he's glad to have met a good person. The man acknowledges the kindness shown by the lizard man who gave him bread. The lizard man quietly offers gratitude to their ancestors. The man asks if they stopped moving, and the lizard man urges to move on quickly, warning that therianthropes are short-tempered and might kill them if annoyed. The group of slaves is seen being led along the street by guards. Two cat-eared women comment on their appearance, wondering if they are sisters. While the man struggles under the weight of carrying another slave, the man tries to keep up despite the exhaustion, telling himself to keep going. The man is called out by a therianthrope, who accuses him of eyeing the cat-eared sisters. The man is struck hard, and the therianthrope snarls that a lowly slave like him should know his place. The man rubs his arm in pain as the therianthropes laugh and mock him, calling him a troublemaker. The lizard man checks if the man is okay, explaining this is how adventurer slaves are treated. The man asks if adventurers are those affiliated with the guild. The lizard man confirms they are used as mine canaries. The man wonders if this is too complex for a dream, but the lizard man says he's ready for whatever may come, holding onto a good memory in his heart. He questions what kind of dream this could be as orders bark to silence the dragon priestess and not forget the inspection. He wonders if he's dead while being scolded and pushed by the therianthropes. A voice calls him a lizard and urges him to hurry. He recalls hearing someone speak as he was sinking. The therianthropes strike him again, warning that lizardians shouldn't talk. He thinks to himself to endure one more time. The lizard man catches him and accuses him of hiding something. The lizardian admits he just didn't want anyone to be hungry. The lizard man mocks him for slipping food past the guards, calling him a petty thief and noting the bread is dirty. The lizardian faces harsh ridicule from shadowy figures who curse his race for making bread, calling it disgusting and better to starve than eat lizardian bread. The lizardian laments the wastefulness as he picks up the bread. He hesitates, then bites into it. The lizardian chews quietly while the man beside him smiles and says it was good. He asks if there's more bread, offering to pay next time. The lizardian nervously replies that was the last of it, surprised by the man's kindness. The wolf therianthropes grow irritated, one snapping that it's the third time they've been bothered and asking who the newcomer is. The young man stands firm, declaring that those who waste food are a special kind of trash, and those who trample on others' creations are worse than monsters. With a dark smile, he reveals himself as an explorer who slays monsters. Facing the therianthropes, he proclaims he won't betray his desires and will live greedily led by them. When challenged to fight, he warns he won't compromise even in a dream and will beat anyone who angers him. One wolf snarls in frustration, calling him a damn monkey, while the young man, unfazed, tells them to take a shower because they reek like animals. The young man tears through a wolf therianthrope's face with a fierce strike, mocking the quality of its attack. He grins confidently, taunting the beast. The wolf reels back in pain, clutching its face and crying out in agony. The man calls out, daring it to come at him again. The wolf snarls, questioning the foolishness of dropping a weapon, then declares one enemy down. The young man responds with a swift slice, taking down a second foe. He casually recognizes the wolf who hit him earlier, calling it out with a smirk. The wolf screams in rage, vowing revenge, but the man remains unfazed, ready for the next attack. The young man laughs darkly, declaring justice as he plunges a sword into the wolf's eye. He coldly remarks, "An eye for an eye, and a stomach for a stomach." As the wolf collapses, wounded and defeated, a notification appears, updating his goals. Eliminate the adventurers and escape their encirclement. The young man remarks on the convenience of this update, then calmly asks if anyone is injured. The lizardian beside him praises his skill, but he insists they must keep moving without delay. The scene pulls back, showing the young man surrounded by defeated foes as others close in. Shadows of gray goblins roar, demanding to kill. The young man smirks, amused that the goblins are finally reacting. He reassures the lizard beside him that he won't hold back anymore, his confidence unwavering. A close-up reveals the young man whispering a command to fill the place. As the group of adventurers, including the lizard, stand ready, surrounded by swirling mist. Suddenly, a thick fog envelopes the area. Confusing the adventurers, they panic, questioning where the fog and the enemies sent vanish to. Despite still being on the first floor of Yahello Tower, two women prepare to defend, urging caution. The lizard is startled but urged to move forward. The young man calls out to their allies, urging them to get pumped up to wipe out the enemies. He grabs the lizard's hand, telling him to follow along. In the fog, enslaved figures hear the call to escape now while they can. One wonders if escape is truly possible, whispering a desperate plea to go home. The young man laughs, declaring their plan worked and urging the lizard to move forward. The lizard hesitates but agrees. They notice a glowing arrow marker on the ground labeled, "Escape." The young man explains it's like a game marker, user-friendly and helpful. Suddenly, the lizard slips and falls hard, shocked by the unexpected loss of footing. Both tumble down a steep slope, the lizard screaming in panic as the ground rushes beneath them. The fall is fast and dangerous, with the lizard desperately trying to hold on. They crash into a dark, unknown place below. Elsewhere, a man in formal attire addresses a woman standing on a large, coiled serpent. He announces that the time has come and that the armor cleaning is finished. The woman, with long hair and horns, turns away, bored by the news. A maid stands silently beside them. The woman reflects on her endless boredom and contemplates praying to the angels for someone to come and destroy it. The man and maid bow respectfully behind her as she grips a long staff, a faint smile crossing her lips, signaling a shift in the unfolding events. The dog-like figure tries to connect, saying they share the same fate of having no home. The groggy young man murmurs a name, barely conscious. The lizard-like figure urgently asks if he can understand and pleads for him to wake up despite his dazed state. The two find themselves in a strange, cavernous place after their fall. The young man wonders if he's caught between dreams. Feeling the ache in his back, the lizard urges him to pull himself together, emphasizing he's the only one to rely on. The young man looks confused, asking what's wrong. As they stand together, a massive shadow approaches. Suddenly, a quest notification appears. Survive the Cyclops giant. The enormous one-eyed giant looms over them, its presence overwhelming. The young man nervously acknowledges the Cyclops, noting its unfriendly demeanor. The giant growls menacingly, then swings its massive arm down with a roar, shouting insults as it attacks the pair. The young man laughs nervously, saying even one hit from the giant would be fatal. The lizard-like figure asks why he's laughing. Confused, the young man, still smiling, admits it's because the situation is interesting. He suddenly dashes forward, declaring the obviousness of his interest despite the danger. The young man regrets having discarded his axe, realizing it would be useful now. The Cyclops blinks in confusion. The young man taunts them as fools, bracing for the next move. A dark, ominous voice questions if he's laughing in Death's face. A heavily armored warrior leaps into the fray, swinging a massive weapon at the Cyclops. The force of the attack sends a shockwave through the air, signaling a fierce confrontation. The armored warrior calls the attack boring, dismissing it as not even a time killer. His confident stance and sharp gaze show he's unfazed, ready for whatever comes next. The armored figure charges forward with a powerful stride, cape billowing behind. The lizard-like man questions if the attack could really take down such a monster in one strike. Noting even adventurers would need a team, the cloaked figure watches silently, stunned, whispering disbelief that it could be true. The armored warrior laughs, mocking the lizard man as an escaped adventurer slave, and asks if he belongs to one of the lizard-ian branches. The lizard man is shocked, stumbling back as the warrior approaches. He trembles, struggling to believe the armored figure might be a dragon. The armored warrior praises the lizard man's perceptiveness, acknowledging the strong bloodline visible through the armor. The young man questions why the armored figure is so arrogant, while the lizard man demands the young man bow his head, warning him of the warrior's power. The armored figure declares himself a tower-class adventurer, someone who has surpassed the world's logic. The young man tries to downplay the praise but secretly feels honored. The armored figure notes the young man has an ancient scent and congratulates the adventurer slaves for breaking their shackles and escaping. The young man acknowledges the pressure of the moment but thanks him. The lizard man warns the young man not to fool around before such an esteemed person. The armored figure declares the levels above will soon become interesting and offers to provide some entertainment with a game, while the two captives exchange uneasy glances, sensing danger. The armored figure commands them to kill one another, declaring the survivor will be freed from slavery and sent back alive. The lizard man and the young man exchange tense glances, absorbing the brutal terms. The armored warrior swears by his name as the hoarding dragon, and updates the quest objective. Slay the lizard slave to escape from Yahello's tower. The lizard man stammers in disbelief at the order to kill one another, while the armored figure insists he won't repeat himself and mocks the lizard's need to see proof. Holding up a shining pendant, the armored figure explains it is a church's repatriation seal, granting immediate freedom from slavery and a job in the city of adventure. His city, the lizard man swallows nervously, and the young man asks about the pendant. The lizard man imagines how valuable it would be to have such a seal. The armored figure tosses a weapon down, stating a proper fight to the death requires weapons, and that the cunning lizard deserves a reward. He reveals the weapon as his own dragon's knife, urging them to feel honored. He commands them to dance, enjoy themselves, kill, and fight, warning that otherwise, they won't survive. The lizard slave freezes in shock, clutching a weapon as he struggles to believe the brutal quest update demanding he kill another. He questions if this is real or just a nightmare, doubting the claim that he lacks skill. The command to slay the lizard slave echoes, pressing him to survive by any means. The armored hoarding dragon urges them to start fighting, threatening to kill both if they hesitate. The lizard slave reflects on the bread the young man made, realizing it was an act of kindness to prevent hunger, despite the pressure. The young man admits he doesn't want to kill the lizard slave. The lizard slave notices a nearby lake, a moment of calm amid the tension. The lizard slave dreams aloud of opening a small shop by a lake, with a trustworthy friend and regular customers enjoying his bread. The armored figure watches silently from a distance, the dream contrasting with the harsh reality of their situation. The lizard slave tearfully acknowledges that his dream came true today, as someone ate the bread he made and praised it. Though he doesn't wish to die, he feels satisfied his dream was fulfilled. He expresses shame for even considering killing the young man to survive, declaring that what happens to him no longer matters. He thanks the great teeth for guidance and the encounter, accepting his fate with a heavy heart. The lizard slave reflects on the man who ate bread made by a filthy lizard-ian thief, and got angry at those who treated the bread poorly. He calls him a good man and addresses the great dragon in a quiet, reverent tone. The lizard slave sits alone in a vast, ruined cavern, feeling the weight of the moment. The armored figure, the hoarding dragon, calls the lizard a boring creature, questioning why a mortal would give up the thirst for life that higher beings envy. He declares the lizard truly boring, ending the confrontation with a dismissive tone and telling the young man to rejoice as the victor. The hoarding dragon presents a shining pendant, instructing the young man to hold it and chant his name, saying any living creature should manage this. He admits the affair was more boring than expected, but insists a dragon never breaks its word. The armored figure reveals only one of the two will survive and orders the young man to get out and live. The young man calmly asks what the hoarding dragon plans to do with the lizard. The young man laughs darkly, calling the ending boring but stating the lizard's death will allow the other to live, something fitting for mortals. He questions if the hoarding dragon is mistaken for laughing at his own words. The young man recalls a worse time in a dungeon with a giant spider and smiles gently, telling the lizard to lift his head. The lizard warns the young man to leave quickly, hinting that something unexpected might happen if he stays. The young man smiles, telling the lizard not to speak like that since he never learned his name. The lizard reveals his name is Lazar, with no last name, calling himself a filthy lizardian traveler. The young man introduces himself as Naruhito Tuyama, an explorer feeling dizzy from dungeon sickness, and asks Lazar to hold out his hands. Naruhito holds up a shining pendant and calls out Lazar's name, causing the lizard to react with surprise. Naruhito finds the moment heartwarming, appreciating the story as a good fit for both Lazar's dreams and his own desires. Naruhito tells Lazar to head back first, reminding him that an expedition isn't over until one is home. Lazar urges him to hold on, but Naruhito calmly tells him to get over there. Clutching the pendant, Naruhito prepares for what comes next with a determined smile. The young man smirks confidently, telling the arrow it should have been aimed at the true target from the start. The main quest is marked as abandoned, the story itself collapsing. He turns to face a massive, shadowy figure, declaring that this is the asshole who should die here. A hidden quest triggers as the armored figure, the hoarding dragon, appears with a swirling cloak and a giant sword. The young man vows to kill the one piece of shit who's been pissing him off. The hoarding dragon calls the young man an unpleasant slave, but he retorts with a smile, warning the golden armor not to speak too soon. He promises to show what unpleasant really means as the quest updates to subjugate the hoarding dragon, declaring he's just following his desires. The hoarding dragon admits it's been a long time since he's been this irritated and grudgingly gives some credit. The young man grins, telling him not to get so upset since he seemed to be having a blast just moments ago. The shadowy figure declares the young man is similar to him, like a monster akin to an appointed explorer. The young man denies being seriously dangerous, contrasting himself with the figure. The young man mocks the hoarding dragon, calling him a dumbass and declaring he will be the one to survive since only the two remain. The armored figure reminds him that a dragon's word is absolute and only one will leave alive. Both share a tense laugh as the confrontation escalates. The hoarding dragon abruptly commands enough of this, raising his hand as the ground cracks beneath him, signaling the start of a fierce battle. The young man stands calmly, observing a strange effect in the distance. He wonders if it's fire or a weapon that heats whatever it strikes, calling it troublesome. The armored hoarding dragon growls, noting the man's unnerving calmness. Suddenly, the dragon leaps forward, smashing the ground with force. The young man smirks, praising his opponent for not being boring prey. The young man taunts the dragon, declaring that the dragon is the prey, not him. As the dragon charges, the narration shifts to a memory. In the year 2 by 28, a dungeon appeared on Earth, defying physics and mocking science. The narration continues, explaining that objects warping the laws of the world appeared. Artifacts, relics, and more. The young man states his preparations are complete and senses something familiar, ready to begin. Holding a dagger, he chants a command to dissipate remembrance. The blade emits a swirling mist as he releases the power, erasing memories tied to the weapon. The young man grins confidently as he declares the conditions met and activates the haze blade. The weapon releases a swirling mist that spreads invisibly through the air, already extending to a 50-meter radius. He remarks that it's fortunate his opponent stands downwind, sparing him from the blade's effects. Laughing wildly, the young man mocks the heavily armored foe, questioning if such armor can stop invisible blades scattered through the air. The armored figure screams in pain as the blades pierce through, begging for the assault to stop. The young man revels in the thrill of hunting monsters. The young man doubles over, struggling with nausea from the recoil of his own attack. He acknowledges the impressive armor of his opponent, but admits the recoil makes him feel sick. Despite this, he notes that going all out from the start has proven effective. A warning appears, telling him not to look down on the lower life form beneath him. He shivers, realizing this feeling isn't a dream. The armored figure kneels as massive wings suddenly burst out from his back, spreading wide with a powerful force. The young man reacts with shock as the battle takes a dramatic turn. A massive explosion erupts, sending debris flying as enormous wings crack and stretch open from the armored figure's back. The figure roars defiantly, declaring himself a dragon. The battered dragon, bloodied and wounded, refuses aid, insisting he's fine despite his injuries. The young man stands nearby, explaining how invisible blades scatter through the air, mixing with the attack. The young man exhales, noting how those blades infiltrate the body with each breath, cutting from the inside out. The dragon gasps weakly, acknowledging the pain and the finiteness of his life. The young man coldly commands the haze blades to kill. The young man remarks on the dragon's persistence and reveals his cautious nature, unwilling to rest until certain the dragon is dead. He picks up a bloodied knife, recognizing it as the dragon's, and offers to return it with a sly smile. The young man grimaces, calling the sight gross as he watches the battered hoarding dragon lying on the ground. A bloodied knife falls from the dragon's hand, drifting silently through the air. The young man stares at the fallen figure, the weight of the hunt settling in. He raises a bottle, swirling its contents as a smoky haze envelopes the scene. The words, "Hunt complete," echo quietly, marking the end of the brutal chase. The defeated dragon's form is surrounded by a dark mist as a voice taunts him with a harsh farewell. Notifications appear. The hidden quest for the dragon hunt is complete. A new anti-dragon skill is unlocked, and the haze blade has absorbed the hoarding dragon's power using soul fragments. The scene shifts to a sprawling cityscape. The narration reveals the location as the Southern Imperial Territory, Agatra, specifically the Adventurer Guild. The architecture is grand and medieval, setting the stage for what comes next. The Southern Territory's lord, Margrave Sapin von Teach, lets out a long, anguished wail, sweat dripping down his face as he stands inside a grand building. He collapses dramatically onto the floor, lamenting that such a disaster had to happen during his tenure. Crying out to angels for answers, nearby, two small figures express their desire to leave or go home, while a composed woman in formal attire enters, telling the lord he's been making a racket for some time. The woman, Marikuin, the guild master, swiftly chops the lord, catching him off guard. She apologizes for the sudden attack but insists on recording his statement. The lord is embarrassed as his panties are exposed, and the guild master comments on his odd behavior, asking what the matter is. The scene shifts to a lit candelabra, identified as the triage lamp, a grave good that monitors the status and lives of the highest-ranked, tower-class adventurers. A woman counts the flames of life on candles, noting the hoarding dragon's dragon priestess should have 7 flames, but only 6 remain. She deduces this means there is a reaction. A man sipping tea quietly agrees. The man suddenly spits out his tea in shock, demanding if they died. The woman explains that the Empire's guardian dragon, a top-level VIP, has lost one of its 7 lives, according to the Dragon Embassy. The hoarding dragon was hunting in Yahello Tower today. The man panics, insisting they must report even a single candle going out to the capital. The woman calmly tells him to assess the situation and plan a response. The man complains about being ignored despite his noble status. She reminds him this is the first dragon death in around 200 years, and that the Emperor likely already knows. She suggests issuing a formal request for first-class or stronger tower-class adventurers to search for the hoarding dragon, which he agrees to. The woman recalls that during the Great War, the Mages Academy killed the flame dragon, but dragons are practically immortal with multiple lives. The man proposes notifying the regions and empire of a dragon festival, framing it as a grand welcome since the resurrected flame dragon will likely return soon. He urges announcing it before the Dragon Embassy instructs them to do so. The woman teases the man, amused by the determined expression he finally shows. She notes that people only give their all when backed into a corner. The man, overwhelmed by the shouting, admits they just have to do it. He insists this is a one-time event and it will be fine, though the woman remarks that nothing is more troublesome than a dragon's death. She then informs him that a tower-class adventurer is waiting for him underground, someone who, by fate, is searching for a dead dragon. The man eagerly demands more information, while the woman adjusts her glasses with a knowing smile. An arrow strikes a target with precision as the focus shifts to the hero party's former archer, Wenfil Barnasama. Shown from behind with flowing hair, the man, stomach rumbling nervously, mutters that she is trouble. The 28th year of the Empire's third era. On the 12th day of the month of Blossom, shock spreads throughout the Empire. The symbol of harmony between the Empire and the Dragon Realm, the dragon priestess known as the Hoarding Dragon, has lost one of her 7 lives to an unknown perpetrator. To mourn her death and with the promise of her resurrection, a proposal was made across the Empire for the first time in 200 years to hold the Dragon Festival celebration. By imperial decree, without convening the parliaments of nobility, the celebration was approved. The Empire's economy surges as the death and resurrection of a dragon ignite prosperity across all sectors, from the Merchant Guild to the Adventurer Guild, from adventurers to restaurants and brothels, and beyond. In Adventure City Agatra, the towering Yahello Tower looms over the ruins, its first stratum descending into shadow. Wenfil Barna silently descends into the depths. The glowing waterfall basin marks a grim scene below, where a slain figure lies still, a blade embedded nearby. A voice echoes boredom, restless and unchallenged. Sitting alone on a rock, a lone figure laments the monotony, declaring everything boring, simple, and meaningless, untouched by any real threat. A man praises the woman for striking true while blindfolded, calling her wonderful as always. She acknowledges him but remarks that another fairy tale her mother told has come to an end. She seems displeased, reflecting that she once believed life was meant to be enjoyable, filled with things worth cherishing. She recalls her parents teaching her that to obtain such things, one must struggle and overcome hardships. The man reminds her that her father, the iron-blooded dragon, and her mother, the blossoming dragon, surely wanted her to enjoy the world. He questions if she's too young to have reached such a bleak judgment. Noting her mother said the same, she admits nothing brings her joy anymore. She wishes she had remained ignorant of the true nature of fairy tales and the frailty of humans who only revere or fear her. She regrets not admiring them from afar, lamenting that this place is no different from the timeless, deathless dragon realm. She wonders how she can be free from this boredom. She dismisses the church as boring and the knights as weak, claiming they only worship her. Among them, only a money-grubbing female bishop remains decent but will never oppose her. She compares this to the kingdom's dragon cult and rejects the idea of an omniscient dragon in the human realm. Turning to adventurers and heroes, she questions if a hero arises through prayers in times of crisis for humanity. The man concludes. In that case, she contemplates destroying the entire world, her eyes wild with a manic gleam. An older man firmly warns her against such a deed, insisting it is something she must never do. She challenges him, asking if he will crush her boredom for her. The man insists that a human, not destruction, should fill the emptiness inside her. She muses on humans, calling them all the same but detesting their hollow hearts and shallow words, despite their adoration. She finds them disgusting and warns the man not to speak too soon. In a cavern, a young man offers a small object, admitting he is simply following his desires. His expression is a mix of determination and unease as he extends his hand. The woman, battered and bloodied, looks upward in confusion, questioning if she has died as she kneels in the dim light, surrounded by shadows and silence. A figure confesses that it was the black-haired man who killed him, a twisted smile on his face. Nearby, a bloodied warrior laughs eerily, clutching a weapon. The woman with flowing hair sits alone, intrigued by this revelation. The woman remains seated as a heavy boot approaches. She quietly repeats the eerie laugh, then readies her bow. She acknowledges her name, Wenfilbarna, and decides to return home, the towering cityscape looming behind her. Wenfilbarna stands tall and commanding in a grand hall. She orders a servant to find the black-haired human slave, her presence radiating authority. The servant bows respectfully, accepting the command. She reveals the stakes. The slave who killed her must be found, or the dragon realm will sever ties with the empire forever. She promises a vast reward for whoever brings him to her, while anxious onlookers react nervously to the decree. The economy surged after the hoarding dragon's decree, with crowds pushing eagerly to take on quests and challenge the tower. Coins and goods exchanged hands rapidly, and the saying, "A dragon's death brings profit to all," rings true. Yet beneath this prosperity, a shadow looms. The black-haired slave remains elusive despite efforts to find him. 12 knights from the church and 4 groups of impostors have been weeded out, but the dragon slayer hides well. A confident woman remarks on the thinning of the herd, yet her dragon slayer remains hidden. The woman, addressing the dragon slayer as her destined one, declares he will be her horde. The black-haired man shivers at her words, feeling a chill run down his spine. The narration hints at a flashback, setting the stage for what follows. Just after the battle with the hoarding dragon, the black-haired man contemplates looting the corpse. He prays the fallen will never reincarnate, acknowledging the odds he'd likely win next time. He notices a big spear, cloak, golden armor, and helmet among the spoils, pondering his next move. He confirms the spare repatriation seal is gold and notices dog tags among the spoils. Deciding it doesn't matter, he claims the items for himself. Sitting down, he examines the loot quietly. Meanwhile, large reptilian eyes emerge from the water, watching silently. A lone figure stands submerged in swirling water, the ripples and currents enveloping him as he faces an uncertain fate beneath the surface. He claims the fallen warrior's loot, declaring it his own while reflecting on how close the encounter was. He notes the weapon's strength but criticizes its instability and the lengthy preparation required. Relieved that his opponent underestimated him, he recalls how careless his foe was, unaware that he held a trump card. Confident, he grips a precious item and speaks his name to activate his escape, acknowledging that this was his first kill and feeling the weight of crossing a moral line. The narration explains how the modern dungeon, Rift of Babel, alters human minds by affecting the amygdala and neural synapses, distorting morals and unraveling self-control. This phenomenon is what transforms ordinary people into explorers, driven by the intoxicating lure of the dungeon. 3 years as an explorer have changed Tuima's mind deeply. Holding a precious item, he questions if this is dream or reality. Resolute, he vows survival this time, shouting his full name, Tuima Haruhito, with fierce determination. He calls out his name again and again, but nothing happens. His voice echoes over the still form of the defeated foe lying below. Desperation grows as he continues shouting Toyama Haruhito's name, but no response comes. Exhausted, he collapses to his hands and knees, realizing there is no reaction at all. He wonders if the item is defective. Sitting back, he looks toward a dark cave entrance, sensing something nearby. A massive lizard emerges, its eyes locking onto him. With a sly smile, Toyama greets the creature, asking why it and its smaller companions have gathered here. Naruhito flinches as a crocodile snaps near him, startled by the creature's strange cries. The small lizard-like beasts approach, drawn by the scent of blood. He smirks, admitting he got carried away, and calls out to the tadpoles. Pointing toward a pile, he shouts that there's freshly dead meat nearby. The tadpoles quietly munch on the remains, ignoring him. Frustrated, Naruhito lashes out, declaring the live ones must be tastier and curses them. He notices the tadpoles are faster now and more numerous, blinded by his own attack. He panics and calls for his arrow, urgently. He commands his blade to dematerialize, preparing to escape. A side quest triggers, hinting at a nostalgic reunion as Naruhito races toward Mags's campgrounds. Despite corrupted text, he urges himself onward. Suddenly, a massive foot crashes down behind him, and he gasps in shock. Naruhito realizes these water dwellers don't rely on sight or hearing, guessing they detect heat instead. He panics as they attack like snakes in that form. He commands his mist blade to kill them, but frantically tries to cancel the attack, shouting for them to go home. A warning voice instructs him to keep his head low and lie flat on the ground. Naruhito, desperate, asks what he should do next. Wenfulbarna appears, activating her Wind Authority perk, Hawkeye. She confirms his response is positive, addressing him as a local native. An analysis reports clean elimination is possible. Wenfulbarna is identified as a 66 parasitic bioweapon, Mars temporary symbiote with the call sign Sierra Special. Now engaged, she unleashes a powerful wind attack with her blade. Naruhito watches in awe as a bow and arrow fly through the air, striking the crocodile. Shocked, he mutters no way, amazed by the weapon choice. An arrow streaks through the air, striking its target with precision. Wenfulbarna stands firm, her combat efficiency rising as a voice warns her not to be overconfident. The target's proper response is confirmed, silence maintained. Wenfulbarna asks the local if he is hurt, noting her pairing with another is stronger. The local looks confused as she tells him he is extremely lucky. Then suddenly she reacts with surprise, demanding to know what is going on. She questions the local's identity, analyzing his DNA and confirming he is Japanese despite his black hair and brown eyes. The local is puzzled by the analysis and wonders if she is an acquaintance. Wenfulbarna, realizing the situation, turns abruptly, shocked by the revelation. Wenfulbarna summons her power, her long hair swirling dramatically as she declares it has been a while, addressing the local as Japanese with a serious, intense gaze. The man asks who she is. Confused, she smiles knowingly, explaining this is a reunion with Kaze, but their first meeting. She describes the tower as a chaotic nexus where all timelines mix. He thanks her for saving him and asks if she's all right. She apologizes for the confusion and greets him again, calling him Japanese, while he wonders what she really is. She introduces herself as Wenfulbarna Gilvanciflul Tusk, a traveler for now. The man stammers her name, surprised by her rare expression. She notes that Kaze rarely saw his human-like face, which is understandable given his situation. She tells him not to be so on guard and to put away the dangerous thing he holds. She addresses him as Toyama Haruhito-kun, prompting his shocked reaction as he demands to know what she is. She playfully wonders if he is his future nemesis. He reacts with disbelief and awe, calling her cool. She asks Mars to stay and listen, saying she wants to talk to him for a bit and tells him not to get mad. She suggests moving to a nearby camp where Kaze and others are, inviting him along. He hesitates, asking what if he refuses. She smiles knowingly, recognizing his cautious nature, and offers to show him the benefits first. Tempted by the promise of delicious tea, she asks if he'd like some. As they sit together, he awkwardly asks what he should call her. She tells him to call her one but quickly adds she'd rather not hear her full name from him. He wonders if she hates Kaze, and she confirms it with a sly grin. She playfully calls him a damn elf, teasing him. He questions if she's some kind of masochist. Shocked by her bluntness, she retorts that he's the last person she'd want to hear that from. Calmly, she shifts the conversation to his situation, explaining bluntly that he's alive and well. Though it's hard to accept, this is undeniable reality. He sips the tea, admitting it's good, while she urges him to stop trying to escape reality. She reveals that since Mars isn't reacting, it confirms he's Japanese, just as Kaze suspected. He admits he's a pure Japanese guy, albeit awkwardly. She laughs, marveling at the unexpected moment of sharing tea together, highlighting the strange but genuine connection forming between them. The fire crackles quietly, but the truth is difficult to accept. Toyama Haruhito nervously asks if he is still alive, addressing one as Elf-san. She remains silent for a moment before confirming firmly that he is definitely alive. When adjusts her fluffy hat and looks directly at him, explaining that this place is not a dying illusion in his mind but unmistakably real, she reveals that this world is separate from the Japan he once knew, making it clear that his reality has fundamentally changed. When explains firmly that this world is not the Japan he once knew but a completely different world, an ice guy, she acknowledges the shock this sudden revelation must cause and begins to explain the situation gently. Toyama Haruhito reacts with sparkling excitement, thrilled to realize he has been reincarnated into another world. He eagerly embraces the idea, joking about getting the trendy 2020s ice guy reincarnation, much to Wen's surprise at his unusually pleased reaction. He joyfully declares that he is still alive and that this truly is an ice guy. When comments that he can get along with a surprisingly amusing guy, referring to someone else, Toyama recalls the adventurers he defeated, the Beastman, the Winged Armor guy, and the Lizard guy Lazar, and demands confirmation that they are all real beings living in this world, when warns him to step back, noting how traumatic his current state is and that he likely won't understand everything yet. Toyama excitedly proclaims that he finally got Ice Guide, then questions if this is a transfer rather than a reincarnation. He stresses the importance of clarifying this to avoid genre confusion. He then wonders aloud about the meaning of otaku as per the database, angrily denying he is an otaku and blaming his current state on not being able to enjoy such things as a kid, when reacts with surprise and confusion at his outburst, asking what he just said. Toyama questions the claim that he's not an otaku and demands to know about Lazar and the Winged Armored Man. He wonders why one even knows Lazar's name. When recalls they were in the same slave wagon, Toyama presses for the connection between one, the Armored Man, and the adventurers when accuses Toyama of having a split personality, flipping his switch too fast, though she admits she's not one to talk given her own nature. Toyama is warned that he can't kill Kaze with the Haze Blade, especially not with the weak version he currently wields, when tells him to calm down, explaining Kaze wasn't close to the Armored Man or the adventurers Toyama killed. Toyama listens silently, absorbing the information. When reflects on the reason Kaze won and lost, pondering Lazar's status as a slave and the fact Toyama is here, Toyama admits he doesn't understand and feels there's too much when knows that he doesn't, when asks if Toyama would hurt her if she withheld information, while he questions why she knows so much about him. Toyama internally realizes this conversation is going badly and that he shouldn't make one his enemy, when comments that the cold look suits him better and that Kaze knew he looked better with it. Toyama admits he has no idea how he'd kill Kaze. He resolves to shift the situation, but then awkwardly questions if it's weird for one to refer to herself as Kaze, when cuts him off with a sharp, "Shut up," leaving Toyama thinking he's screwed. When accuses Toyama of always doing reckless things with Mars, prompting him to dismiss it as whatever now. She teases him, saying his look gives off a bakery assistant or crow hunter vibe. When questions why he's wearing torn clothes and missing his explorer gear, handgun and hammer, surprising Toyama who admits everything was gone when he woke up on a wagon in that outfit, when grimly notes that's bad. She insists they can't waste any more time and that Toyama must escape immediately. He protests that if it were easy, he wouldn't be struggling, while internally thinking she's too cute, when watches him silently, then remarks that Kaze really doesn't like him. She speaks cryptically, addressing Toyama as a greedy adventurer who pushed the world forward but failed to preserve it. She says she has never forgotten her wish despite his presence and suggests maybe that's how fate was meant to be. She explains he can't use the return sigil the hoarding dragon had because he's not from this world. Toyama is confused but listens as she recalls him suddenly appearing at the guild. Toyama realizes the sigil is something only natives of this world can use, recalling the Armored Man said the same, when confirms the guild crystal likely can't detect his use of the sigil because of an otaku skill. Teasing him, Toyama denies being an otaku, bewildered, when offers to let him escape but warns he still can't climb the tower as he is now, noting how fast he switches tactics. She advises him to live in the adventure city he's trying to protect and insists they keep this meeting with Kaze a secret. Worried about too much change in the timeline, she prefers to follow the natural flow and suggests going the usual route instead. He asks what she means, and she offers to seal his memories for safety, startling him. He vehemently refuses, calling memory sealing dangerous and comparing his brain to a Happy Meal toy after repeated attempts by the Explorers Union. She finds his fear understandable and remarks on why his people created something like Mars. Despite his protests, she tells him to do his best out there. She tells him he and Kaze will meet, questioning if Kaze will still be her by then. She smiles warmly, calling him a greedy adventurer and expressing her anticipation for their meeting. As she begins to vanish into a swirling portal, she sends her regards to the guild, the lazy lord, the sly lady bishop, and the annoying dragons. She also asks him to give her regards to Lazar and warns him to watch out for anemia, calling him a dragon's freeloader and a vampire snack, predicting rough times ahead. She laments she won't get to eat Lazar's bread again, showing a close-up of the bread before disappearing. A swirling portal forms as a woman warns Toyama Naruhito to watch out for crows. She asks him to kill the foolish Kaze, urging him to follow his desire. As she begins to vanish, she explains this is how Kaze says goodbye and bids him farewell. The woman addresses the dense, heavy mist that blocked her fate, describing Toyama as a man loved by a dragon, a sinner who stole a vampire's knowledge, greedy and troublesome. She wishes him a fine journey, calling him a damn adventurer with a sly smile. The woman reaches out toward the swirling portal, then suddenly clutches her chest, collapsing into a chair. She tells herself not to worry, insisting the memory is traumatic. She reflects on Kaze as a terrifying person who once seized the world with his power before destroying it. Despite his potential to ascend to godhood or even angelic levels, he couldn't overcome his own desire. Driven by this, he destroys the endings he cannot accept with his own hands. The voice reflects that the path felt too easy and may have already diverged, yet insists it's fine. Kaze remains Kaze, Wenful Barna remains Wenful Barna, and their choices define their own story. His story is his, hers is hers, and the wind carries its own tale. The narration urges to keep surviving, 1 month after the hoarding dragon's death. Various quest updates and side quests appear, including a hidden quest unlocked by remembering a conversation with Wenful Barna. At the Adventurers Guild in Agatra, the Adventurers City, a woman calls for order as a crowd pushes forward, urging them to stop pushing and get in line. The guild is bustling with activity, and a woman sternly warns the crowd not to push, while someone shouts that, "We-san is here." Inside the guild, 2 men examine the notice board but find nothing useful nearby. A young man reacts with surprise as a sudden gust of wind swirls around him and another person, causing a commotion. A woman nearby is startled as the wind disrupts the room, and someone yells, questioning who just activated a skill. The wind knocks someone down, drawing attention from the crowd. Toyama Haruhito shouts angrily at an elf, calling her a damn elf, confused by his surroundings. He wonders where he is and why he is treated like a black-haired slave. 2 men nearby exchange puzzled looks as he sits on the floor of what appears to be a bar, while others watch him warily. Sitting alone, he wonders if he's the slave the dragon priestess seeks, but quickly dismisses the thought. A woman nearby gasps, recognizing him as the survivor from Rikats, the black-haired slave adventurer the Empire has been hunting. Suddenly, he senses danger as shadowy figures approach. Rumors swirl around him about the massive bounty on his head for killing the hoarding dragon, but he appears unfazed, noting his worn-out clothes and messy hair make him look weak. 2 men decide to leave quickly, aware his skill just triggered and not wanting trouble. He contemplates what to do next. The woman with cat ears screams in rage, blaming him for her sister's death by a monster and the chaos among the slaves. She demands his death, promising herself to anyone who kills him. No longer caring about anything else, he covers his ears, overwhelmed by her fury. As she shouts for him to be killed, a new presence interrupts, calmly addressing her with a chilling well. The tension spikes as the scene shifts, hinting at an imminent confrontation. A confident woman with long flowing hair and sharp teeth smirks, her hand resting thoughtfully near her chin. She stands tall, revealing a strong, athletic build with a cape billowing behind her, radiating an intimidating presence. She addresses the gathered crowd, explaining that when she ordered the search for the black-haired slave, her command echoed throughout the Empire. Even beggars obeyed her. Yet they demand the slave's death. She concludes that the slave must not be an ordinary human, her voice carrying authority and menace as she asserts her control over the situation. A commanding voice demands the slave be found, but the speaker admits hearing a strange, unpleasant mewl, like a cat in heat. The woman with long hair and sharp teeth looks down with a sinister smile, intrigued by the sound. She reveals she is searching for the one who made that sound, addressing a frightened cat-eared girl as Lil Cat, and urging her to scream. The girl panics and cries out, while Toyama Haruhito watches in shock, realizing the woman is looking for someone specific. The woman reflects on the wounds carved into her, the deep fear planted inside, calling herself dangerous. She admits the pain throbs every time she sleeps but calls it a pleasantly lonely night, smiling softly as Toyama reacts with confusion. The woman tells Toyama there is much she wishes to discuss and commands him to follow her, warning him to stay away. She ominously states he might not realize it, but he is already within her range, prompting him to question if that was all she intended. She confidently states she has already memorized it, recalling how people said she was making good use of it. The man looks uneasy as she tells him not to be afraid and invites him to come closer, promising she'll come to him if he doesn't. He questions how she uses the haze blade, and she replies it's obvious, revealing she was killed by it once. She calls the experience rare and precious, praising him as a remarkable hunter. She admits she made sure to kill him, but that final blow was effective. Her smile is sharp as she acknowledges the impact of that strike. The man reacts in disbelief to a scratch, while she reveals her true desire. To meet him, the one who has surpassed even dragons, she calls him her beloved mate, her dragon slayer mate, and wonders if such a bond is inappropriate for humans, leaving him confused and flustered. She smiles warmly, hands framing her face, and declares she has come to fetch him. Her husband, he stammers, confused by the word husband. She calls out to an older man, commanding him to prepare clothing for her husband and to raise the church donation threefold, acknowledging the skill behind a prophecy. The older man responds respectfully, while she asks who the stranger is. She gleefully explains to the older man that the stranger is the slave who killed her, boasting about the feat of ripping her body from the inside. The older man acknowledges this, while she excitedly points out the stranger's silent killing intent sensed by her dragon slayer. They ask his name. The older man warns that the real danger lies in himself, not the two monsters before him. The woman nervously asks the older man's name, which surprises him. The older man notes the stranger's deep karma and battle experience, while she praises her husband's ability to appreciate the older man's greatness. The stranger admits it doesn't make sense but accepts he is more than a monster. The older man addresses the stranger as young lord. The older man politely asks if he may trouble the young man for a moment. The young man, sweating nervously, admits he doesn't feel like he has a choice. The older man stands confidently beside a woman with long hair and a cape, telling the young man he is welcome to try resisting. The young man tries to downplay the situation, saying killing someone is fine, especially since it was a gorgeous woman who kept calling him her husband. He winces, overwhelmed by too much information, and asks for a moment alone, wondering if he can run. The older man and the woman exchange knowing looks. Noting the young man is trying to escape, the woman suggests he go get some fresh air, startling the older man. The woman angrily questions why her husband is running away after she took an extra bath and dressed up. The older man wonders if she is stupid. The young man sarcastically asks how he is walking around after killing her, then questions if the older man is from the Empire. The woman explains that dragons are high-ranking beings with 7 lives, fated to pair with their conqueror and bear stronger offspring. The young man, overwhelmed, decides he better go to the library to learn more about this ice guy stuff. The older man acknowledges the young man's rare trait of having scenery inside his mind, not a system or skill, but senses something unpleasant within him. The woman asks if something is wrong, and the older man says the young man seems confused and may require some force. They conclude it may be best to bring him to the estate by force. A main quest triggers, the course of life, with the objective to escape from the guild. An optional, extremely difficult task warns to defeat the hoarding dragon and kill the butler. The young man scoffs, finding it easy for them to discard such a dangerous objective. The woman warns not to damage the young man too much, as her husband is already part of her collection. The young man hopes to provoke her into slipping up, calling her smug and high and mighty like an armored bastard. She admits that when he speaks like that, her heart races, though if any common human said it, she'd want to erase them. She urges him to speak exactly what his heart says, causing her to blush and smile painfully. The older man observes the young man's reaction, noting he's happy instead of angry and wonders if she's invincible. He explains that the woman and her kind can look into mortal hearts and were likely pleased by the young man's honesty. He then politely asks the young man one last time if he will come with them. The young man refuses, saying he learned never to follow strangers. The older man lunges at him, but the young man blocks the attack with surprising reflexes. The older man admits the reaction speed is impressive, more like a lucky guess, and acknowledges he doesn't dislike it. The young man smirks, questioning what the older man eats to move like that. The main quest, the course of life, has failed, and the kingdom route is erased. Despite this, the man asserts he still holds a humble seat at the tower's rank, acknowledging the second shot hit properly. The hoarding dragon and the butler arrive, surprising those present. The lord and the guild master are addressed, with the guild master noting the lord's belly remains full. The hoarding dragon declares she has found what she was looking for and is bringing it back. An announcement from the dragon embassy is expected in 5 hours, and the city's representative may attend. The guild master apologizes for the unsightly scene shown to the hoarding dragon, who is in a good mood. The guild master states unconscious adventurers will be strictly dealt with by the guild, lamenting the appalling quality gap among adventurers. She promises to draft and deliver measures today. The hoarding dragon laughs, admitting to being in a good mood, and reflects on how some approach with pride while others direct true killing intent at her. She admits to having misunderstood the human. The hoarding dragon addresses mortals born to change, admitting they are not as boring as she thought. She suggests meeting again in 5 hours. The guild master blushes as the butler offers to carry the unconscious man. Though she hesitates, the guild master reacts shyly to a teasing comment about her red face and whether she will touch him. The lord carries the unconscious man, prompting a sharp warning to handle him more gently and carefully, especially not to mess with the princess robe. The guild master insists she will manage it herself. The lord asks Marikuin what the man is, and the guild master explains he is a dragon, a higher life form that has found its mate. The butler, sweating nervously, wonders if he can skip the upcoming dragon assembly by claiming he has an ancient class to attend. Noting the dragon is in a good mood, the guild master urges the lord to accept rest for today, ending the scene with a quiet sigh. The hoarding dragon, smiling confidently, declares a meeting at the dragon assembly in 5 hours. The guild master and the butler stand silently behind her as the lord carries the unconscious man away. A flashback reveals a young boy looking down with a somber expression, then facing a small dog. A voice reflects that this dog was his very first friend. The boy calls out to the dog named Taro under a bridge. Though he doesn't fully understand the dog's barks, he responds warmly, showing their bond. The dog suddenly startles the boy, who laughs nervously and admits being scared. Despite living in different worlds, they were truly friends, sharing a heartfelt moment together. The boy commands his dog to fetch a stick, watching as it leaps to catch it midair. He praises the dog with a warm smile, calling him a good boy before pulling the dog into a tight, affectionate hug. The boy confesses that someone at the facility hit him again, calling him cheeky and weird. The dog nudges his face gently, prompting the boy to ask if his name is Taro. The boy smiles softly, then looks thoughtful as he and the dog sit side by side, gazing out at the horizon. The dog barks happily, and the boy calls out to him, deepening their bond. With renewed determination, the boy tells the dog they should go on an adventure together, just the two of them. He promises they won't lose to anyone as they prepare to leave, their friendship stronger than ever. The boy promises his dog they'll meet again tomorrow, urging him to wait. The dog watches him leave, then quietly returns home, slipping inside as the door closes behind him. Suddenly, a group of men appear, shocked and growling as a fierce dog lunges toward them. The dog snarls fiercely, trembling but defiant despite the pain and fear. The boy recalls the promise they made, urging the dog to run. The dog snaps fiercely at an unseen threat, then suddenly lunges, biting down hard while the boy declares he's done, giving up. A dog stands on a rock, the question, just kill it? Hanging in the air, the dog snarls fiercely, trembling as a hand grips its neck tightly. The voice apologizes to Haruhito, lamenting the failure to protect their home, while commanding to serve it as the dog bites fiercely. The dog sinks beneath the water, the voice apologizing again, predicting Haruhito will be sad without it tomorrow. The pain and struggle are less than the sorrow of parting, and the voice bitterly admits it will never see Haruhito again. A voice reflects on the unexpected emergence of a strange hound deep within sharp angles beyond the stars and logic. It speaks of a deep grudge and malice suiting its vessel, taken by a cursed woman. But with this dog, survival might be possible. The voice offers itself to the dog, hearing a faint voice calling. Haruhito stands quietly, surprised as someone calls his name. Taro? The voice acknowledges Haruhito's arrival, while 3 figures watch from a distance, marking the moment of reunion. Haruhito anxiously wonders if Teru should be here, feeling the weight of a broken promise as he questions where Teru could be. A shadowy figure's apology echoes, but now Haruhito stands alone, gripping his hand tightly. He realizes that in his current form, there is still something he can do, his resolve growing as he faces the distant group beneath a large structure. A dark figure reveals it caught and drowned the noisy creature, its presence ominous as it clenches a fist, the tension rising sharply. The voice threatens to kill Haruhito, but also reassures him that lacking fangs or claws is acceptable, the swirling energy around him intensifying as the confrontation looms. A shadowy figure declares it will become the fangs and claws for its companion. Addressing Mashiro, it explains that the beast bonded with man takes on a new name fitting those weapons wielded by humans. The figure reflects on its unexpected strength and reveals its name, tied to whiteness from high mountains or mist across wide plains. The figure continues, calling this new name a blade, promising to watch Mashiro within the haze. It vows to devour the haze completely someday and aid his adventure, ensuring he never cries again. The figure pledges to repeat this until Mashiro attains everything he desires. Mashiro, holding a dog's head gently, resolves to continue their story, their adventure. He feels as if waking from a nostalgic dream, touching his forehead in quiet reflection before sitting up, alert. A woman stirs in bed, murmuring Funya. Her expression soft and sleepy. She muses that the art of piercing is akin to mating. Laughing quietly, Mashiro watches her from a distance, seated calmly as she sleeps peacefully. He tumbles off a massive bed, shouting that it's way too huge and questioning who made it. He admits his senses are confused by the gigantic surroundings and wonders what to do next. Suddenly, an older man appears, greeting him good morning. The young man, startled, asks how the elder arrived. The butler smiles warmly, saying he's been there all along as part of his duty and addresses him as son-in-law. The butler asks where he intends to go, but the young man admits he hasn't thought about it. The elder chuckles, calling recklessness a privilege of youth. Then he instructs the son-in-law to change into proper attire for the assembly and hints at something else. The young man reacts with surprise as the butler swiftly moves. The butler declares the handcuffs no longer necessary and snaps them open with bare hands, leaving the young man impressed. He then says he will prepare the young lady, Farron, and commands the maids to ready clothing for their guest. The maids acknowledge and gesture for the young man to follow as the butler offers to wake the young lady. The young man hesitates but is guided along. Now dressed in a suit, the young man adjusts his tie nervously as the butler notes the maids weren't needed after all. The young man remarks on wearing such attire before, calling himself technically a working adult. The butler asks if he has worn such clothes previously. The maids quietly admire him as the butler says there's much he'd like to ask but time is precious. The grand doors of the dragon assembly open, revealing the sacred hall where all matters concerning dragons are decided within the empire. A butler stands by the entrance, announcing that everyone is already gathered inside. Several figures, each distinct and serious, are shown in close-up, emphasizing the weight of the assembly. A young man nervously asks if this is like a boss room, to which the butler calmly advises him not to be so nervous. Inside, the vast, domed chamber is illuminated by light streaming through high windows, showcasing an imposing central throne. A woman with long, wavy hair and a confident smile addresses the young man directly, calling him husband and acknowledging his arrival. The young man is instructed to step to the center of the vast, domed chamber and take a seat on an ornate chair placed there. He hesitates, surrounded by the imposing architecture and the silent assembly. Around him, several figures watch closely, noting his rare black hair and chestnut eyes. One worries aloud, fearing trouble, while another calmly observes no sign of danger, only a haze. The young man feels the weight of their gaze and silently hopes nothing will go wrong. Suddenly, a striking woman with long hair partially covering one eye appears, her presence commanding attention. She speaks softly, signaling the start of something significant, while the young man looks on, tense and uncertain. The assembly is revealed. The Adventurers Guild Guildmaster Heidmary Snabelia, Margrave Supan von Teach, and Merchant Guild Guildmaster Spina Moro. The woman on the throne addresses them as the most exceptional chosen few who sustain the Adventurer City, acknowledging their gathering with solemn respect. Apologizing for the disturbance at the guild, a woman expresses sincere gratitude for the generous handling of their guild's failings and humbly asks for severe judgment on those who scorn the words. The hoarding dragon, seated above, acknowledges the guildmaster's wisdom and declares a good mood today. She mentions one female cat, hinting at a target. The dragon commands the armor to be sent before the dragon festival, wanting the worms to train with it. She orders the immediate seizure of the female cat, calling her intolerable as a dragon for leaving behind the seed of such a creature. The guildmaster bows and agrees to the command. The dragon priestess orders that if the female cat has a family, they are to be brought along to serve as toys for the worms. The guildmaster, sweating, complies with the harsh demand. The dragon then dismisses her, telling her to step back. A man seated on a throne questions if the dragon priestess means the pet dog when she says family, causing shock and alarm among the gathered group. The guildmaster and others react with wide-eyed surprise as the man calmly presses the point, leaving the assembly stunned. The dragon priestess declares that no one will be spared and all will be devoured, even pet dogs or cats. A man protests, insisting the dog hasn't done anything wrong. Shocking those around him, the priestess coldly states the dog is already dead, and she understands the situation. The dragon priestess laughs and orders the guildmaster to disregard her previous words and simply bring the cat girl. The crowd reacts with stunned disbelief. The guildmaster quickly apologizes and accepts the dragon's command with a bow. The guildmaster nervously sits as the priestess ascends the stairs, complimenting his appearance. The guildmaster is confused by the situation. While others whisper among themselves, suddenly, a knight named Clan returns and sharply calls the guildmaster a slave. Breaking the tense silence, the guildmaster internally admits he has kept quiet until now. The knight angrily demands if the guildmaster realizes who sits before him. The Empire's guardian, the bond between dragon and man, the dragon priestess herself. The guildmaster hesitates, calling her the dragon priestess. The knight scolds him for his disrespect, reminding him that someone of his low-born status shouldn't even look at her, before the guildmaster nervously agrees. The man casually asks the knight to lower his sword, claiming it frightens him, especially since he's unarmed. The knight's expression darkens with fury as he silently seethes, shouting "You dare!" with intense rage. The knight unleashes a powerful, swirling attack, sending a massive gust of energy hurtling forward, catching the man off guard. The man shields his face from the assault, sweat dripping as the attack swirls violently around him. The dragon priestess's voice cuts through the chaos, demanding who allowed the man to speak. She declares her words are meant only for her husband, humbly begging the dragon's understanding. The guildmaster, uneasy, admits this is why he hesitates to bring the man along. The priestess explains that the foolish words came from devotion, pleading as a pitiful human longing for the dragon. The dragon, amused, questions the graciousness of such begging and credits a prophecy for bringing her together with her husband. Observing the aftermath, the man notes the knight is still alive, and the dragon forgives him for their sake. The bishop humbly pleads with the dragon priestess to allow the wounded knight to be healed. Despite calling him a fool, the dragon priestess grants mercy, acknowledging the knight as one of the angel church's 10 swords. The bishop expresses gratitude, then commands SVI to begin healing, who responds obediently. Meanwhile, a young man laughs, admitting he intended to turn the knight to ash but consents to the healing. SVI raises her hands, invoking a prayer to the gracious one, asking for divine grace to flow into her hands. She channels the sacred power, preparing to heal with the sacrament, healing hand. The healing light flows over the knight's battered form, mending his injuries. The bishop reflects on the dragon priestess's angelic scent, confirming the rumors. He warns the knight that his life remains only because of the dragon priestess's mood and the bishop's mercy. The knight, struggling, vows to kill the bishop here and now, but the bishop orders to move on, telling him not to look at him. The guildmaster solemnly addresses the knight, explaining that as the chosen of mankind, he must understand why he was summoned. The black-haired slave before them is the one who slew the hoarding dragon. The knight listens, sweat on his brow, as the truth of his role and the gravity of the situation settle in. The dragon priestess grants the knight a rare honor, to sit before her, interrupt her, and stand as her equal, him alone among all humankind. She firmly rejects the knight's assumption that she is bound by human ties. She declares that the only one she acknowledges and who can bind her is the man who killed her, the knight himself. With conviction, she announces her will to all present, declaring the knight to be her mate and extending this declaration to the empire itself. The crowd reacts with surprise and murmurs, recognizing this as the dragon's wedding. She vows that through their marriage, the ties between the empire and the dragon shall be eternal. Amidst the gathering, a woman asks for medicine, complaining of a headache, while another remarks on the grand celebration. The dragon priestess invites anyone who objects to speak now, emphasizing that despite murmurs, the wedding is to be celebrated. The dragon priestess declares that one of the ancient pacts between dragons and humans has been fulfilled again today. She commands the crowd to show their assent through silence and obedience, emphasizing the true desire of a dragon. To be bound to the dragon slayer, a man reacts with surprise, while a woman addresses the hoarding dragon with respect. The guild master of the Adventurers Guild congratulates the couple on behalf of her guild and offers a celebratory bout in the arena during the Dragon Festival. She expresses a desire to see a match between an ancient species and a tower class. Those few who never bore her. A representative of the Empire humbly speaks next, promising to prepare a match to drive away the dragon's boredom. The Empire's representative expresses regret that the Emperor cannot witness the marriage himself but regards the event as an act of the dragon's benevolence. The dragon priestess permits the representative to stand in for the Emperor and agrees to compensate lenders under the dragon embassy's name, warning that this will affect trade due to the pitiful moneylenders. The dragon priestess asks if there is anything else. The merchant guild master speaks next, announcing lowered rents on guild-owned shops and commemorative gifts to celebrate the marriage. She vows to gather wisdom and provide for the dragon's interests. The dragon priestess acknowledges her and calls her a greedy bishop, then signals to proceed to the next speaker. The bishop solemnly admits that even the knight's head cannot redeem his savagery, yet she pleads for a fitting punishment before the festival. She takes full responsibility for the church's misconduct, acknowledging greed for gold and the courage that prevents hatred. She forgives all offenses, accepting the burden herself. The Empire expresses pride in her presence, honoring her prophecy and courage. She outlines the church's plan to cut prices on essential goods, releasing them to the market, and asks what the church thinks of the celebration. They will compose new hymns in praise, completing everything by the Dragon Festival. The Dragon Priestess stands above, overlooking the humans below, reflecting on the unshakable truth carved deep into the souls of all who live in this world. The Empire representative joyfully declares she can finally fill the void within her, suggesting that everyone here, and everyone living in this world, has forgotten this truth. A dragon smiles with relief, declaring that 100 years of solitude and boredom are finally over. Calling today a blessed day, she reflects that even dragons had forgotten something so simple and obvious. And now she has obtained the greatest treasure of her dragon life. A man sits calmly in a chair, listening quietly. The man firmly states that marriage can only exist with the agreement of both sides. He insists he is not getting married and is fine being single for now, dismissing the idea with a casual hand gesture. Dragons exist completely apart from everything else, as higher creatures beyond human laws and untouched by humans. Being chosen as a dragon's mate is the pinnacle of all living beings, equivalent to a direct blessing from the world itself. Humans can only even touch that existence by being chosen by a dragon, a highest honor they yearn for. The dragon is a sacred and absolute being, an absolute concept carved into human souls. Yet, the man firmly rejects a dragon's marriage offer, declaring he is not marrying her. The dragon reacts with shock, and the crowd gasps, while the man retorts, "That's my line." The man questions how the situation even turned into him marrying the dragon, calling the setup too sloppy for a scam. The dragon insists she is a dragon, not a bride. An older man urges her to get a hold of herself as she apologizes for a bad dream and wonders if this is marriage blues. Noting she's already wearing her wedding outfit, the dragon, carried by the older man, asks if she really is a dragon and laments being dumped despite that. He confirms it, and she accepts the reality with a resigned expression, addressing the man again as husband Dano. The dragon declares the man is misunderstood. The man reacts with surprise as a figure falls, and a servant calls out to him. The older man addresses the man as son-in-law, telling him he doesn't seem to understand what a dragon's marriage means. The older man explains that a marriage with a dragon is equivalent to acquiring all that a human could ever desire, reminding the man that as a human, he too has desires. He emphasizes that desire drives humans forward, even if roughly put, and that humans live to fulfill those desires. He argues that by agreeing to a union with a dragon, the man should accept the marriage. The man admits he can't deny that. The older man promises that everything the man desires will come true, urging him to choose as the chosen human. The dragon stands solemnly on the stairs, declaring that the man is more fortunate than anyone else in the world. Doubt and disbelief wash over him as he questions if everything will truly be his. Memories of simpler dreams surface. Building a shop by the lakeshore and going on adventures with his loyal companions. He laughs bitterly, calling himself an idiot. A sly smile spreads as he reflects on the thrill of anticipation, admitting the best part of a day off is the night before it begins. He muses that early money-making schemes, rather than maxing out levels or cash, bring the most excitement when starting from nothing. He finally understands that desire is the most enjoyable part, especially when struggling to make dreams come true. A new skill, speech challenge, is unlocked, enabling him to persuade adversaries through system-driven influence. Resolute, he declares his plan to build a house by the lakeshore. He acknowledges that money is essential and vows to study the world's economy and currency system. Though he will get a job to earn money, first he must understand this new world. He admits that despite only wanting one thing and knowing where he's headed, the many tasks ahead excite him. Every struggle, adversity, and trial, along with the joy of achieving them, all lead to his desire. He embraces it all with a confident smile as he faces two figures ahead. His grin widens with determination as he clenches his fist, declaring that everything is going to be his. He firmly states he won't give them even a scrap, dismissing their offers and possessions as meaningless to him. The challenge to persuade the dragon and the transcendent begins, but his current affinity is low, leaving intimidation as his only option. Facing a woman, he declares he doesn't want any of their stuff and warns them not to touch what belongs to him. His expression fierce and resolute. A fierce glare burns with a deadly promise. "I'll kill you." Two figures stand amid swirling haze. A woman swiftly moves, tracing the haze with her hand, declaring she has memorized it. She senses the haze thickening, confusion flickering as drops fall. An older man acknowledges the situation calmly, while the woman urgently calls out, "Gramps!" He admits the entity inside the son-in-law is tougher than expected. The man warns, "This is a warning. Release me, you don't choose." The speech challenge assist triggers an unregistered relic called Haze Blade. The young man smirks confidently, vowing to decide everything by following his own desires. Nearby, a woman calls the situation a nightmare. While another watches silently, the man's presence radiates as he stands defiantly, a human threatening a dragon. The man laughs, declaring he has much to do and orders the old man to move aside. Cursing the dragon not to interfere, the speech challenge, intimidation, activates, granting bonuses against dragons and nullifying mental corruption from higher beings. The old man grins, acknowledging the man's spirit and calling him a brat. The young man orders the old man to move aside, refusing to tolerate bullying the elderly. The old man snarls back, calling him a damn brat. The young man declares this is an adventure, insisting there are more challenges ahead and it's time for a new game, to fulfill his desires and do things his way. With a fierce grin, he vows to take any risk and face any danger. Even if he dies, he promises to make everything come true. The old man laughs bitterly, mocking the young man's words as his last. He questions if those are truly his final words, emphasizing the desire behind them. The young man retorts confidently, telling the old man he's losing his edge and that this is the real him. The old man snaps back to silence him, but the young man remains unfazed, adjusting his suit with a smirk as the old man prepares to strike. A woman descends a grand staircase, her eyes hidden beneath her hair as she asks if marrying her is truly so unpleasant. The message confirms her speech challenge of intimidation has succeeded, completely eroding the hoarding dragon's spirit and stripping its will to fight. The older man turns nervously, addressing her as my lady. While the young man stands silently behind, she bluntly declares her dislike for him. Catching him off guard, he begins to respond, explaining the reason. The young man calmly states he hates her because she tried to kill Lizard-san and acted arrogantly. She questions if he really hates her, and he affirms it without hesitation. She processes this cold truth quietly. Tears stream down her face as she realizes the full weight of his hatred. She admits she has wronged him and asks if he is sure. She requests to rest and instructs the older man to take her husband to the bath, and then escort him to the city with care. The older man reacts in shock, calling out to her. She cries, overwhelmed by hearing he hates her, pleading silently that she doesn't want his hatred anymore. Guilt weighs heavily on him as she turns away, spreading large wings and taking flight, leaving the space between them vast and empty. The older man shouts desperately for her to hold on, ordering Farron to care for their son-in-law and guests. The shattered ceiling lets light pour in as the young man stands silently, watching her ascend. The older man declares he will go after her, shouting her name in a panic. Meanwhile, the young man is surrounded by small maids who see this as a chance to tease him for making her cry, while a composed woman stands nearby. In the quiet aftermath, a woman with a ponytail reflects with regret that she should have attended an ancient Japanese prep school. While a maid quietly responds, the group remains gathered beneath the shattered dome, the tension lingering in the air. The chapter opens with a figure soaring high into the sky, wings spread wide as they ascend beyond the clouds. A voice reflects on the harsh truth. Despite being a dragon, someone has declared hatred toward them. The figure continues to fly with determination, insisting that everything should belong to them, claiming they were the one who chose, yet confusion lingers. If they chose, then why is someone else defying them? The figure demands to know why their words are rejected, their voice filled with rage and a refusal to forgive. They plead inwardly for their heart and soul to burn with hatred, urging themselves not to forgive the man who opposes them. The scene shifts to a close-up of the figure's fierce, tearful eye, declaring that the man deserves 1,000 deaths and that they will fall apart. Around them, voices whisper warnings about the terrifying dragon who will burn them all, pleading for the dragon not to interfere, yet questioning why this is happening. The man bluntly declares his dislike, followed by a cold admission of hatred. The woman, shaken, struggles to respond as he calls her a dragon slayer. Alone, she curls up, whispering a desperate question. Why? She reflects bitterly that he does not belong to her, reaching out as if to grasp a painful truth. Tormented, she spins in anguish, questioning what she should do, haunted by the realization that he hates her. Suddenly, an older man approaches, addressing her as milady and urging her not to run from him now. She hesitates, then quietly admits she understands. She must have made him angry. The older man insists they must return, but she softly refuses, overwhelmed by her sorrow. She confesses she no longer wants to be rejected or feel pathetic, admitting that as a dragon, The only way she knows to get what she wants is by forcing it through power. The older man listens quietly as she struggles to understand. He gently tells her there is a way for dragons and humans, or any beings with will, to stand side by side without becoming mates. He reminds her she is closer to humanity than any other dragon, even more than the all-knowing hoarding dragon. He explains that now she has met the dragon slayer. She is ending her childhood through pain, and that the answer to standing side by side lies beyond her growth. He urges her not to give up on that man, her dragon slayer, and to never let him go. She falters, unable to respond, and admits she hates him. Despite this, she breaks down, whispering that she can't let go. She breaks down in tears, struggling to accept that he said he hates her. The older man gently commands her to raise her head, holding her face with care. He questions if she truly believes it's impossible for a dragon to be thrown into such turmoil by a single human, warning her to remember her pride as a hoarding dragon. She angrily rejects his words, declaring she won't forgive even him. Calling herself a mere girl, he mocks her as a sulking little girl, abandoned by a man. Fueled by rage, she lunges forward, vowing to kill him despite his greater age and strength. The older man admits he cannot read the dragon slayer's mind, but that doesn't matter. The older man swiftly blocks the attack, declaring the strike too slow. The woman, furious, accuses him of daring to raise a hand against his master. The man calmly states his master won't be broken by a single defeat. Questioning if she truly wishes this path, she falls silent, clutching her arm, conflicted. She struggles to understand the meaning of challenge as the man insists she must grow as a hoarding dragon. A shadowy figure declares the time has come, asking if she will remain a lonely superior being or change into something different. Tears begin to form as the weight of the choice presses down on her. Overwhelmed, she shouts that she's had enough, anguished over the dragon slayer's hatred. She pleads for silence, unable to bear the pain and suffering. The man kneels, gently holding her face, reminding her that the dragon slayer vowed to bear such pain himself. Her tears fall freely, her resolve wavering. The man asks what she truly wants to do with her dragon slayer, what she seeks. He explains the dragon slayer takes pain and struggle as his own. With pride and dignity, she answers quietly, admitting she wants to get along with him, revealing a fragile hope beneath her turmoil. She admits to having done terrible things to him, misjudging and forcing her will on him until he came to hate her. Yet she still wants to talk to him, to understand him, and embarrassingly wishes he would call her name. She refuses to give up on him and asks what she should do to get along with him. The older man smiles, pleased by her resolve, and tells her she has failed and tasted defeat. But this is not the end. It's her time to grow. There is only one way to overcome the pain of anguish, an unfulfilled desire. The man insists she must continue to face that pain. He tells her this is not punishment but her first true adventure. She questions the meaning of adventure, looking up at him. He urges her to obtain, grow, and learn, never deceiving her own heart, as the hoarding dragon. When she wishes for something, she must never stop facing it. He takes her hand and commands her to bring down her dragon slayer. The only way to fill her emptiness and soothe her boredom is to embark on this adventure. Born among humans but guardian among dragons, she must embrace her role. The man reminds her that every adventure requires a destination and a goal, addressing her as the hoarding dragon. She asks what scenery he wishes to reach, her eyes wide with wonder as her hair flows around her. The view shifts to a distant bright star in the sky, where she and a man stand together, her gaze turning contemplative. The star shines brilliantly above them as they float, small against the vast cosmos, emphasizing the enormity of their goal. She quietly confesses her desire to see this scenery alongside him, her expression softening with heartfelt resolve. With firm determination, she declares her decision to defeat him and promises to definitely bring him here, spreading her arms wide as if embracing the vastness of her resolve. A distant planet glows in the dark void of space as a young woman clasps her hands nervously. She admits her adventure feels a little scary but also exciting. Turning with a shy smile, she realizes this is what others call fun. She apologizes to the older man, addressing him as Gramps. He responds with a respectful gesture, declaring that now she is truly worthy of their hoarding dragon. The young woman, still blushing, expresses slight unease, but Gramps insists they must go meet the adventurer immediately. The older man smiles warmly, revealing he has a splendid idea inspired by an ancient saying from the second civilization, long before the Great War. He explains it means a bond formed in intimacy, reassuring the young woman that they will stake their lives to support her adventure. She protests that she won't need her life anyway. Suddenly, others react with shock and concern. questioning if they are really thinking what it seems. The older man remains calm, while the tension rises as the scene ends with anxious voices calling out to Gramps. A serene statue pours water into a large bath, the sound soothing as a man relaxes deeply in the warm water, sighing with relief and pleasure. The man wonders aloud why he's in the bath of someone he nearly killed, noting the place's grandeur like a super-hyper bathhouse. Despite the luxurious setting, he starts a speech challenge to persuade the transcendent dragon, though his current affinity is low. He questions the strange occurrence, recalling the woman was crying, and admits he can't enjoy the bath fully despite its perfection. He tries to relax but feels cheated, convinced he did nothing wrong. Then a voice asks how the water temperature is. The older man chuckles, explaining it's a butler's refinement and that the maids threw him into the bath from the start. The younger man is shocked he didn't notice earlier. The older man assures the woman, exhausted from earlier events, is now resting peacefully, while the two men sit quietly in the bath. The older man confirms the unsettling truth that the woman beside them intended to kill the younger man, who struggles to relax in the bath, uneasy about the taboo of fighting there. Despite the tension, the older man laughs heartily at the younger man's bluntness, calling it delightful, while the younger man grumbles about the old man's rudeness. The younger man wonders why the woman, the armor-wearing enemy he killed, seems to have special feelings for him. The older man questions if he is truly from this kingdom, noting its deep dragon teachings. The younger man admits he is an orphan from far away with no parents or education, prompting the older man to ask how much he knows about dragons. The older man explains dragons possess 7 lives, immune to aging and death, existing beyond magic, skills, or systems. The younger man is confused by the concept, imagining a cat with multiple lives. The older man says such beings are allowed to exist but recalls a man who rejected a dragon's proposal, desiring nothing she offered. The younger man compares it to buying a hyped game and instantly seeing the ending cutscene. The older man suddenly bows deeply, apologizing sincerely for his repeated discourtesies toward the younger man, who watches silently, taken aback by the gesture. The older man offers his life without hesitation, apologizing for underestimating and threatening the younger man so carelessly. The younger man reacts with surprise as the elder bows deeply, insisting on his request despite protests to lift his head. The elder smiles warmly, calling the younger man strong as he firmly clasps his hand. The younger man demands an explanation instead of an apology, begging the elder to give the woman one more chance. Even as friends, the elder reveals he has served her for 100 years, and this is the first time she has considered another person. The younger man realizes this is a sign she is trying to grow and does not want him to hate her. The elder explains that the woman embodies a cosmic principle called hoarding, a concept not originally possessed by dragons. Hoarding means to gather and cherish desires, a balance she governs. However, if she continues unchecked, she will become distorted. A hoarding dragon is closer to humans than any other, deeply influencing the human world. The elder warns that she must not transcend. The elder insists she needs a human who can stand beside her, someone who can admonish and oppose her when necessary. The younger man acknowledges the elder is incredibly strong and a butler but admits he is weak, no longer fully human. He confesses only a true human can stand as an equal beside a dragon. The elder admits he saw nobility in the younger man's desire, claiming hardship as his own to fulfill it. He is convinced the younger man alone can become the woman's equal and friend. The younger man awkwardly admits she tried to kill him and enjoys playing with people. The elder acknowledges dragons cannot be separated from cruelty, but that is the cruelty of a child lacking guidance. The younger man realizes it sounds like an excuse and understands she gets bored easily, doing it just for fun. The elder reflects on his own youth, admitting he was once a brat like the woman. He confesses his request was selfish. The one who should be present is the woman herself, not her babysitter. The younger man nervously tries to assure the elder that as long as she doesn't attack him, things will be fine, and admits he once killed her, so they're even. The elder, overwhelmed with emotion, cries as the younger man tries to deny it, pleading for him to stop shaking him. The elder encourages them to go, leaving the rest to the two young ones, wishing the woman luck and believing victory is possible. The younger man wonders if the elder is some kind of genie. He notes Gramps is top tier in the tower ranks and erasing his presence with movement is no challenge, concluding Gramps' strength is pure physical ability. The younger man notices someone nearby and nervously asks if someone is there. The woman suddenly shouts not to turn around, revealing herself with a panicked expression, loudly declaring, "It is me! I am here!" as she quickly moves to hide her body. The woman pleads not to be reported for harassment, explaining she can't leave because moving her towel would cause it to fall. She insists there's nothing about her body she's ashamed of but does not want to show it. The man bluntly tells her not to come closer. She reflects that he must be mad, especially about her. Suddenly, She shouts that she is not an armor bastard and demands to be recognized by her name. The man questions if she really is that armor bastard, noting how meek she seems. The man agrees she seems meek but doubts she actually has a name. The woman reacts with frustration. The man calls her Alice Ojusama, trying to confirm her name, which shocks her deeply. The man accuses her of roaring, but she denies it vehemently, declaring herself a full-grown dragon who does not cry. She demands to know what she and Gramps were discussing. The man awkwardly says it was about her, and she admits she made a noise. He reveals that Gramps wants her, the hoarding dragon, to have a friend. She is shocked and denies it, calling him her mate but quickly regrets saying that. The woman mutters, "Damn, hoarding," before loudly proclaiming she is the hoarding dragon. The man responds with a resigned, "Yeah, sure," as she stands defiantly, still wrapped in her towel. He wonders how her approval rating is so high despite their kill or be killed relationship. She retorts that his innocent act makes her look like a villain for killing him so hard. He praises her lack of hesitation, reminiscent of a hunter from Tales. She declares that's why human. He was the first to challenge her directly. When he revived, what filled his body was not anger or hatred, but joy and interest. She admits he was all she could think about. She questions why he opposed her and didn't obey, saying once it bothered her, it never left. She wanted to learn, grasp, and observe him. She confesses she wants him but fears he hates her. He reflects on always taking things by force and wonders why he can't just claim her the same way. Confused, he admits he no longer understands anything. He admits he's scared and worries he might be sick, thinking if things had gone differently, he might have turned out the same. She reassures him he's not sick and that his feelings are normal, reminding him of what they would have done at that time. A dog barks in agreement. He explains that wanting to get along with someone and be with someone is a rightful desire. Introducing himself as Tuyama Naruhito, he lists his hobbies: reading, gaming, terrariums, camping, sauna, fishing, and cooking for himself. He shares his dream of building a house by a lakeside. He insists he's introducing himself by choice, not because the old man told him to, and clarifies he isn't interested in mate bonding or marriage, but genuinely wants a friend. His hand stretches out awkwardly, unable to pull back, while he worries silently about how embarrassing it is to be a male tsundere. She softly repeats his name with a shy smile, causing him relief that she isn't grossed out. He urges her to introduce herself after he has done so, nervously asking who she is. He presses her to say her name properly, explaining he can't be friends with someone who won't say their own name. She reacts with surprise and embarrassment. While he complains about her mother's anarchic ways, he formally introduces himself as Tuyama Naruhito and invites her to call him whatever she likes, then asks for her name. She suddenly shouts her full name, Alice Drow Flaretail, with conviction as she grabs his hand firmly, declaring that is her name. He smiles warmly, telling her that her name is nice. She nervously repeats her full name, Alice Drow Flaretail. While gripping his hand tightly, he begins to say, "From now on," but leaves it hanging. The words complete in the quiet between them. "We're friends." They shake hands firmly, sharing a moment of mutual understanding and connection. She reaches out her hand with wide eyes, asking hesitantly if he is really her friend. He awkwardly apologizes for being weird and asks if she doesn't like it, but quickly reassures her that he likes it. She shyly admits it's fine, though a little embarrassing. He nervously suggests calling her Alice now that they're pals, since he doesn't know what else to call her. She reacts with a startled noise, struggling with the idea. He recalls that only a few people called him Hoarding Dragon or Armor Bastard back in school, and those nicknames weren't good. When asked what he was called, he admits it was Draco. He explains that a nickname is a name friends use, and since he never had friends before, this is his first time. She brightens up, happily agreeing and telling him to call her Draco. The Hoarding Dragon quietly repeats the nickname Draco with a soft laugh, pleased that she liked it. Farron wonders if this nickname is a bond beyond marriage. Suddenly, she blushes deeply, overwhelmed by the thought that Naruhito might propose soon. Admitting it makes her dizzy. Farron warns her she's boiling in the hot spring, but she remains lost in her flustered daydream. Farron, wrapped in a towel and holding a cup, grimaces and admits he almost got boiled alive. The scene shifts to a distant view of a large room where a few figures stand near a table, emphasizing the quiet tension. The Hoarding Dragon apologizes for her behavior, explaining it was a thermal overload she hasn't experienced since childhood. To make amends, a meal has been prepared for Farron, who is told to eat as much as he likes. He looks at the food with a mix of surprise and hesitation, realizing this is a celebration day. Farron tries the meal and praises it as delicious, while the Hoarding Dragon beams with pride, declaring everything made by head-made Farron is exquisite. The maid humbly compliments Farron's refined taste, However, Farron critiques the sauce, guessing it contains black pepper, nutmeg, and wine, but admits he doesn't know the exact recipe. The maid beams, pleased that the mansion staff only judge ingredients, making them very happy. She blushes as she says she's glad the taste suited him. The man wonders if the pepper was really expensive, learning it's rare and grown only in limited kingdom areas, difficult to acquire. The maid explains limited production is one issue, but merchants also worry about monster attacks on trade ships. She points out monsters appearing outside the tower is a classic problem. The man admits he can't tolerate bad food despite the baths and toilets being fine, praising the amazing food and wine. The older man calls him well-educated and asks where he was born. The man hesitates, then wonders if words like another world are taboo or if rituals to summon people from another world exist here. The maid offers more food, telling the man he's been through much. She relays the guild's report that he struck his head fighting adventurers before becoming an adventure slave. The man, annoyed, insists he's not her ennui and worries about being treated like a crazy person. He concludes this isn't the classic summoned from another world scenario. When asked if he has somewhere to go, he admits he does but needs to find someone. The older man asks if the man has his belongings, showing a torn note. The man confirms and apologizes for taking the return seal and necklace from Draco when he killed her. Draco laughs it off, saying both items are his reward for killing her. She notices something and reacts with curiosity. He is asked how he left the tower, and he replies the seal wasn't activated. He recalls an oddly formal woman who did something suspicious, and suddenly he was at the guild. She offers to seal his memories, but he insists he's sane and remembers everything. She smiles and says what truly matters is becoming friends and meeting again, teasing him about his tale while he blushes. The older man wonders if the lizardian she mentioned is Lizard, and she confirms it, saying she has things to discuss with him and that he's in the city. She reveals she no longer searches for the lizardian because the high priest's prophecy marked this day, making the search unnecessary. She used the dragon embassy's power to search but couldn't find him due to his scales. He asks if it's because he was looking for her, and she agrees. She wonders if the lizardian could be dead or sent elsewhere. She insists not to underestimate her, declaring a dragon's word is absolute truth. The lizardian was definitely sent back to the adventurer city, but despite needing proof, dead or alive, there has been no report of him. The lizardian slipped past tracking and remains in hiding, making the search difficult. The man acknowledges the challenge ahead with a tense expression. A side quest triggers: hunt the back alley lizard and investigate the adventurer city slums. He considers this a promising lead after some time. He thanks Draco for the bath and meal, promising to ask for help if things worsen. She asks if he's leaving already, and he admits he can't go out in his current clothes, asking for his old ones back. The older man and maid listen quietly as he awkwardly admits he won't lie to friends, or at least not to them. The maid hurriedly brings his old clothes, explaining they belong to a survivor of the rank 2 party Lycants, purchased from a man investigating promotions. He reacts with disbelief as she presents the outfit. The man examines a peculiar outfit, noting its unusual shape and material. The maid quietly mentions the clothes were cleaned and collected as clues to find him. Naruhito, the man smiles, understanding why craftsmen insisted on inspecting it, but firmly states he wouldn't let dwarves touch his hoard. He calls out to head maid Farron, holding the outfit carefully. The maid swiftly moves to dress him, responding respectfully to the lady's command. She finishes with a flourish, announcing the dressing complete, while the man watches, slightly bewildered. The maid explains the robe was prepared so he would stand out, offering it as a gift. The man reacts with surprise and excitement, calling it amazing. The woman laughs softly, admitting she'd be happy if he wore it. He hesitates. Then she calls him by name, Alice Drow Flaretail, as he sits down. Bowing deeply, the man thanks her sincerely, promising never to forget what she did for him and expressing his desire to repay debts to good people. The woman blushes slightly, touched by his gratitude, while he nervously adds that since they are friends, he hopes to show it more. The woman tells Draco to come to her if help is needed, promising support. The man smiles, assuring Draco he will back her up if anything goes wrong. The woman urges the older man to escort Naruhito and notify the Adventure City and Empire to halt all inquiries about the Black Turtle slave. The man agrees, and the woman quietly thanks him for everything. The woman teasingly asks if he has fallen for her. Smiling warmly, the man responds with a grin, telling her to shut it, calling her an armor bastard. The older man announces the carriage is ready, saying a good deed should be done. The woman entrusts Naruhito to the older man named Bernal. She asks how much travel money Naruhito should have, suggesting 50 platinum coins. Bernal questions if that amount is sufficient. The woman considers it and remarks that it's too much, noting it could buy a house in the noble district. which is 10 times the average citizen's annual income. The man shakes his head, telling the woman her sense of money is hopeless. She stands with arms crossed, her long hair flowing, as he nervously says wait, surprised by something. The thought strikes sharply. The dragon has let down her guard and opened her heart. Shock floods his mind as he realizes that in her current state, she would offer her remaining 6 lives. The main quest, the one who hunts dragons, activates, demanding the hoarding dragon be killed. The reward promises progression of the main quest, restoration of the kingdom route, and evolution of the dragon slayer skill into dragon eater. A woman with long flowing hair calls out to Naruhito, her voice cutting through the tension. A hooded figure with a mask and sharp eyes stands silently, sweat beading on his face. The scene shifts downward, focusing on a hand reaching out with urgency. The man grips a sword tightly, his expression fierce and resolute. He swings the blade with force, shattering something with a loud crash. His eyes narrow coldly as he declares, "Enough with the bullshit." His stance is unyielding as he prepares for the next move. A dark, sinister smile spreads across his face as he delivers a final, brutal command. "Just die, you damn arrow." His boot crushes a broken object beneath it. The main quest is abruptly discarded, the quest line collapsing entirely, leaving the fate of the mission uncertain. A horse pulls a carriage steadily along the road. An older man with a monocle smiles warmly at the young man beside him, commenting that he looks happy. The young man, however, appears tired and uneasy. The older man reflects that it was the first time he'd seen the young lady, Oju-sama, act that way and thinks she should rest more. The young man tries to stop the woman from leaving, urging her not to run off. She asks if he is really all right, and he reassures her he understands. She leans forward, asking if they can see each other again soon, as long as he has calmed down. The young man asks Draco to lend her hand. She looks surprised but complies. They link pinkies, making a promise. He admits he doesn't know if it will be soon, but promises to write her a letter and says he isn't planning to leave the city. She warns him to never break a promise with a dragon. They reaffirm their promise to meet again, not as strangers but as friends. The young man and the woman seal their vow with a pinky promise, their fingers entwined tightly. She smiles warmly, affirming their promise with a cheerful yes, and bids Naruhito farewell until they meet again. The older man questions if 50 copper coins are enough for travel money, but the young man insists it's more than enough. Unable to repay any more, they laugh about how the promise was sealed, recalling the woman's serious expression when mentioning travel money and a cheap inn. The carriage continues on its way, and they expect to reach their destination soon. The narration introduces the adventure city Agatra, highlighting its importance as one of the nation's key locations alongside the capital. The story reveals Agatra as a fortified city built by an unknown group during the dawn of the Third Civilization's Great War, existing even before the empire itself. A map shows the Nada Great River flowing through the heart of the city, sourced from the wall. The young man looks up at a towering structure, questioning if it is indeed a tower. The old man reveals the towering structure ahead as the Tower of Hurl, the last mysterious land in the human realm. He explains it is the empire's and humanity's long-held desire. Though the young man can't see its top, the old man adds that the Magic Academy calls it collapse. The old man continues, saying the tower links to a distant place unlike this world, neither human nor dragon realm, which is why its full form can't be seen from outside. He recalls the young man's earlier words about a distant world and smiles, calling it a romance that never ends. The young man, now intrigued, wonders what lies at the top. The old man shares that according to the Angel Church's legends, the tower's peak contains everything. The narration explains the tower was built on a whim by the angel who created the world. Those who conquer it as an angel's trial are granted everything. If the old man recalls correctly, the two ride onward, with the young man commenting that the tale is surprisingly romantic for a fairy tale. The old man agrees, emphasizing the importance of romance. A quest notification appears, triggering the main quest. Return, with the objective to conquer the Tower of Hurl. The young man eyes the tower suspiciously as the carriage moves forward beneath the towering walls. The older man tells the young man to come to the Dragon Embassy if he ever finds himself in trouble. He warns that the city is large and diverse, so the young man should never let his guard down, even if he may not need such caution. The young man thanks him as he reaches to steady the horse. The young man expresses gratitude and asks the older man to give his regards to the hoarding dragon. The older man returns a respectful gesture, wishing blessings from the angels and their dragon upon him. As the young man departs, the older man wishes him well with a confused expression, saying, "May the force be with you." The young man walks alone, approaching a large stone archway. He pauses briefly, looking toward the distant carriage before continuing forward through the arch. Entering the city, the young man reflects on the scene before him, calling it a straightforward fantasy as rooftops and buildings stretch out beneath towering walls. The city spreads out beneath towering walls, with rooftops and a stone archway leading into a bustling area. The streets are crowded, and a fountain stands near the entrance, marking the gateway to the city. The young man steps into a lively marketplace where vendors shout their welcomes and display goods. He notes the high prices and the noisy, chaotic atmosphere, comparing it to a bazaar as he walks toward the fountain. He reflects on the experience, likening it to finishing a game tutorial and reaching the most enjoyable part. Sitting by the fountain, he contemplates the many tasks ahead, deciding to start simply by gathering allies. Concentrating, he commands an unseen arrow to give him a hint, focusing on finding a specific target as the arrow activates, signaling the beginning of his next move. The side quest begins, chasing the slum lizard with the objective to find Lizard in the slums of Adventure City. Agatra, the arrow marker flickers and shifts direction. The young man sits by a fountain, noting the arrow's unreliability but accepting it as better than nothing. He muses that even if the arrow is crushed, it returns. Suddenly, a small figure bumps into him, causing the man to say, "Oops." The figure quickly apologizes and dashes away, prompting the man to follow the arrow's direction. The side quest updates to catch the pickpocket. The man reacts with surprise, questioning the target as a thief. Nearby, a bystander warns him that the target is a slum kid and advises caution. The man hesitates, clutching his chest. The pickpocket shouts, "My money!" As the man realizes he's been noticed, the man yells back, demanding his money be returned. Onlookers react with surprise and alarm, calling out to the boy to wait. The man shouts fiercely for the boy to stop, chasing him through a narrow alley. The boy glances back, realizing he chose the wrong adventurer to steal from. The man warns he'll only knock out a couple of teeth if the boy doesn't halt immediately. Suddenly, the man notices something and halts abruptly. The man runs after a bird flying overhead, calling out desperately for it to stop. He looks up anxiously as the bird soars above the cityscape. A young child covering their ears comments on the unusual noise. Spotting the bird overhead, the child, holding a small doll, advises the bird to return to the others. Waving goodbye, the child calls out to Lizard with a smile. A lizard-like figure watches from the shadows, questioning if the farewell was a thank you. The figure turns away. The narration stating this is where the real story begins, as a dark silhouette dashes forward with determination. The scene opens in a narrow alleyway, where a figure dashes forward with urgency, the cape billowing behind him. The setting is marked as Toyama Naruhito's Isekai open world, Day 1, signaling the start of a new journey. The figure launches a powerful kick, shouting a battle cry as he attacks an opponent who grimaces in pain. A commanding voice urges to advance onward, following one's desires, as the narrative declares the adventure has begun, accompanied by the image of a lizard-like creature, symbolizing the start of this new quest. A man dashes forward, blood dripping from his mouth, shouting urgently for someone to come back here. From a distance, a small figure stands alone in a narrow alley, emphasizing the desperate call. The man chases a young boy through the alley who mutters about the chase being a pain. The man accuses the boy of slowing down, calling him a little brat. The boy activates a skill called acro speed, surprising the man. The boy pauses briefly, apologizing to the adventurer and explaining that everyone is hungry. The man looks up in disbelief, exclaiming that he can't believe this is happening as the boy continues to flee. The boy, now distant, looks back silently, wrapped in a cloak with a hood. The wind blows the cloak's edges as the boy remains quiet, the cityscape stretching behind him, conveying a somber, reflective mood. A figure hums softly while another sits perched on a ledge, quietly tapping their feet. A woman holds up shining platinum coins with delight, praising them as lovely, lovely platinum coins. She confesses exhaustion, barely feeling alive, while a cat-eared woman watches her with concern. The woman dramatically imagines herself being praised and begged for her life, lamenting the presence of a black-haired, fox-eyed man. She recalls a selfish gold-glitter lizard who was killed and had her marriage rejected. Yet she insists she still has a rich life and deserves some fun after doing her best at the dragon meeting. Nearby, a small figure watches quietly. The cat-eared woman admonishes her to rest, noting she's been overworking herself lately. The woman acknowledges her sister's words but seems distracted. She reflects on the divided state of the Angel Church, torn between muscle-brained knights who honor dragon slaying and supremacists who cannot tolerate anything above angels. Coins pile up as the church's fragile unity threatens to collapse. The woman solemnly vows to use every possible method for the best outcome, all for the peace of her beloved monetary economy and wealth, her hands raised in a graceful, determined gesture. Despite the chaos, a woman dismisses the act on desire as a headache. While a small figure notes the bishop looks lovely today, the woman orders SVI to watch over the dragon slayer and help if danger comes. Adding they should smoothly make him owe a favor, the cloaked figure wonders how to do that, thinking about pickpocketing. The dragon slayer runs, thinking the situation isn't really dangerous. He notices the cloaked figure watching from above, questioning if they are guarding or watching him. Below, thugs block his path demanding payment, but he claims he has no money. The thugs grab the dragon slayer roughly, warning him not to touch. One thug finds something on him and calls it a bonus income with a smirk, while the dragon slayer struggles, sweat and tears streaming down his face. The thug examines a small item taken from the dragon slayer, telling him to throw everything except the cash. The dragon slayer, beaten and desperate, pleads for mercy, but the thug threatens to snap his bones. Then, unexpectedly, the thug softly tells him he looks kinda pretty, causing a stunned, tearful reaction. The thug demands to see what the dragon slayer has, mocking him to hurry up. Another thug explains the dragon slayer is into black hands and recently wrecked a girl from the suburbs. The dragon slayer screams for them to stop and not touch him. The thug silences him with a harsh "shut up," while the dragon slayer pleads silently. The thug lunges forward aggressively, closing the distance with a sudden movement. The thug is caught off guard as the dragon slayer suddenly explodes away from him, leaving the thug sweating and confused. The dragon slayer walks away calmly, leaving the scene behind. The thug, stunned, asks what? The dragon slayer turns back with a sly smile, declaring firmly, "That's my money." The thief lunges forward, shouting that the money is his, but is suddenly smacked away with force. A bystander warns that the crows are behind them, but the thief seems confused, asking what crows are. The thief throws something with a shout, hitting a pile of leaves where the crows were hiding. He grins confidently as his companion praises the shot. The thief checks on the fallen figure, surprised to find them still alive and breathing. He casually picks up his dirty wallet and tells the figure to just do it. The figure, bruised and battered, admits they knew the risk of stealing and challenges the thief to kill them if he wants. The thief crouches down, telling the figure he has calmed down and now it just feels like bullying the weak. The figure calls him a thief, lamenting their own weakness and wishing to be strong like him. The thief then asks the figure how old they are. The bruised boy quietly reveals he is 11 years old. The thief jokes about breaking a bone every year, calling it terrifying. The thief asks if the boy is a boy or girl, predicting popularity when he grows up. The boy firmly declares he is a boy, thanking the thief quietly. The thief's expression darkens as he demands why the boy stole from him, reminding him he understood the risk. The boy clenches his chest and shouts that the thief, living peacefully on the surface, can't know what it feels like to starve to death. Flashbacks show the boy scavenging and struggling for food. His voice cracks with emotion as he confronts the thief. Tearfully, the boy insists he will steal whatever it takes to make sure others can eat. The thief rubs his face, sighing that this is a problem. The boy coughs, and the thief admits he understands. Suddenly, a voice calls out loudly, "Luca!" A girl with animal ears and a determined expression rushes forward, shouting for the thief to leave Luca alone. Another person behind her calls out, "Nico, stop!" The girl's fierce gaze locks on the thief as she steps protectively in front of Luca. The leader warns to look around, pointing out that the man isn't from around here. The girl protests, but the leader explains the most likely scenario. Luca stole a wallet, got cornered by thugs, and the stranger came and beat them up. Luca winces in pain as the man bows deeply in apology. The man, still bowed, admits by the other's outfit he seems like a seasoned adventurer or wanderer. He reveals the boy is his little brother and takes full responsibility for his mistakes. Luca listens quietly, a little surprised. The man begs forgiveness, admitting he was selfish and wants to take the punishment for pickpocketing alone. Luca protests, pleading to spare his life, fearing what will happen if he dies. The man cuts him off harshly, demanding silence and insisting he'll bear the blame. Luca insists it's his fault and that the others have nothing to do with this. The man insists he's the oldest and must take the punishment alone. The girl cries out she doesn't want Luca or the leader to die. The man declares it's all his burden, while Luca stands awkwardly, overwhelmed by the tense atmosphere around them. The man, still tense and uneasy, clutches a small wrapped bundle and mutters to himself, deciding to give in despite his worries. Nearby, a sizzling pan releases enticing aromas. He shuffles forward, trying to steady himself. The cat-eared girl, wiping tears from her face, asks hesitantly if they want to eat, while the boy and another youth exchange surprised looks, unsure what to make of the sudden offer. The man firmly grabs the kids' hands, urging them to follow him as he calls out for them to come along. The blonde youth raises his arm, calling out in surprise, while the cat-eared girl and the boy trail behind, watching from a distance. A cloaked figure with a scarf smiles quietly, amused by the scene unfolding below. A plate of scrap meat skewers is placed down with the words, "Here you go, brats." The three kids, Luca, Nico, and the blonde boy, look at the food with mixed surprise and hesitation. The man urges them to sit down and eat, reminding them that food tastes better hot. The man explains that his little brother tried to rob them but notices Luca's honest eyes. He admits he was ready to break a few bones but has lost his mood. Luca apologizes for stealing, but the man says they've already paid for it. Nico looks scared as the man speaks calmly. The man tells Luca that if someone buys you food, you know what to say. Luca and the others respond with shy thanks. Luca quietly reflects that it's been a long time since they could eat like this. The group sits quietly as the man asks if they usually get robbed. Nico smiles slyly, saying kids can't beat adults no matter what, while nibbling on the skewer. The man asks how long Luca has lived here, and Luca answers since birth. The man questions if Luca is looking for someone, noting that Luca's expensive clothes and jacket don't fit the slum. He reasons that someone dressed like that wouldn't wander here unless they had business worth feeding the locals. The man explains there's nothing valuable here except people, making the place perfect for those with secrets. He introduces himself as Lita, the caretaker of the orphans, including Luca and Nico. He acknowledges the harshness of their world and offers to teach Luca manners. Lita notes Luca caught his killing intent, showing the kids' instincts. Luca admits he's looking for someone here and offers an upfront fee to help find them. Nico excitedly calls out to Lita about having work. Lita questions if Luca is sure, reminding him his little brother robbed him. Luca confirms he's leading the group and trusts Lita. The scene darkens as Luca warns to try stealing even a crumb from him or anyone here. Luca vows to make those who crossed him pay the price. Lita admits Luca isn't just a nice rich kid playing around and acknowledges Luca's sharp instincts. He warns Luca that he's not an easy mark and won't be taken lightly, showing respect for the kid's toughness. He states he's searching for someone and demands help to find them, promising payment in return. Lita looks uneasy but listens as Luca offers a clear deal. A small pile of coins on a cloth signals the promised payment. Lita asks if there are any objections to the deal. Nico and Luca immediately agree without hesitation, but Lita corrects them, explaining that the one providing the service sets the price. He stresses that their value is determined by themselves, not others. He counts out 5 copper coins, saying it will keep them fed for a while. Luca accepts the offer, and they shake hands to seal the agreement, both showing mutual respect and understanding. Lita interrupts, apologizing for rushing but returning to the job at hand. Nico excitedly praises the 5 copper coins as the first proper payment they've ever received. Luca calmly states he's searching for a lizard guy. Lita asks if he means a lizardonian, and Luca confirms, prompting Lita to ask if anyone has seen him. He recalls hearing about a wandering lizardonian from a month ago. He hesitates, then explains it's just rumors but the man is well known here. Luca asks about the crows, and Lita reveals they are a criminal guild handling theft, assassination, and extortion, actively searching for the lizard man. Luca learns adventurers from the guild and church knights are also looking for the lizard, who is linked to the man who killed a dragon. Luca worries he's now on their radar and wonders if this is partly his fault. Suddenly, a child appears, happily greeting Pero and Shiro, signaling that everyone has gathered. Pero asks why she is here, noting Nico smells like food. The child thanks Luca for the meat, stacking on top of another brat. While Luca looks overwhelmed, the child confirms hearing Luca is looking for Lizard, addressing him respectfully and smiling confidently. The quest updates. The optional objective to befriend the slum orphans is complete, switching to the orphan route and erasing the prostitute route. Pero smiles, saying he knows the place. Luca hands over extra money, and Pero thanks him. Luca realizes how things will proceed as they walk through the slum together. They arrive at a rundown building. Nico asks if the target was here, and Pero confirms. Lita notes the location is near the sewer lines. Ideal for hiding, the group prepares to check inside, with Luca confident he's found the man they seek. Luca declares the job done and says this is where they part ways. Lita offers further help if needed, and Luca agrees, promising to stay close to the square. Nico waves goodbye, thanking Luca for the meal and asking him to visit again. Luca nods and walks away. He stands before a crumbling archway, the quest updating to investigate Lizard's traces. He steps forward into the shadowy entrance, arrows marking the path ahead. Luca stands in a dilapidated room, noticing something still warm nearby. He crouches, sniffing the air, then touches a dark patch on the floor. His hand glows faintly as he summons a swirling mist around his fingers. questioning if this is the mist blade, and recalling the order to pull it out. He commands the mist to come, shouting "Mist blade," as the swirling energy intensifies around his hand, preparing for an attack. The mist expands rapidly, spiraling throughout the room as Luca braces himself, the energy filling the space with force. Suddenly, a large lizard-like figure emerges from the shadows, gripping a dagger and exclaiming in shock about its shadow. The dark, liquid-like shadow trails behind it as it confronts Luca, tension rising between them. Luca stands firm, swirling mist trailing behind him as he faces the lizard-like figure. Both locked in tense silence. Luca breaks the quiet, cautiously confirming, "Lizard, right?" The lizard's eyes widen with a nervous sweat, replying, "You are," before the moment cuts off. Luca greets Lizard, noting he hasn't seen him since the Draco incident. Lizard, a large lizard-like figure, reacts with surprise and tension. Gripping a dagger as Luca approaches cautiously, Lizard recognizes Luca and prepares for confrontation. He lunges forward, startling Lizard, who panics and begs Luca to stop, overwhelmed by the encounter. Lizard apologizes for the confusion. Admitting his mind is muddled by recent events, he suggests moving somewhere else to talk, claiming he knows a better place. The scene shifts to a distant cityscape as Lizard rubs his temples, complaining about a headache caused by conflicting thoughts of a split personality, a gold and silver elf, and a strong old man. He struggles to process the chaos in his mind. Luca asks if Lizard is okay, recalling the Draco incident and how Lizard defeated and befriended her. Lizard admits his common sense feels fractured but believes Luca's story. He apologizes for his confusion and promises to trust Luca, addressing him by name. Luca expresses relief at meeting again despite the desperate hiding, mentioning Draco spoke highly of him and said he'd been on the run for a month. Lizard reacts with surprise at the length of time. Feeling it passed like a day to him, Luca explains rumors of places inside the Tower of Heller where time is twisted, and lost relics and items have been found there. He adds that's why the tower is so important to the nation and an adventure city, attracting those seeking treasure. The towering spire of the Tower of Heller looms, emphasizing its significance. Luca reflects that risky places mean treasure, making the tower a hub for adventurers. Lizard remarks that Luca sounds like he's learning common sense for the first time. Luca reveals he's from another world, but Lizard dismisses that, focusing instead on Luca being a good guy who saved his life. Lizard insists that's enough for him but warns Luca not to get involved with someone like him. Luca questions why, showing some confusion. He begins his story, admitting he's a filthy Lizardonian thief who doesn't care about such labels. He reveals he was born in the kingdom and was called Shadowtooth there. As he speaks, a dark shadowy figure appears behind Luca, emphasizing the weight of his past. He acknowledges the listener likely knows the harsh truth. His race is persecuted in every human nation due to past mistakes. It's normal for them to lack proper jobs or homes. Yet, in a kingdom ravaged by civil wars and instability, someone like him becomes useful. Whether fortune or curse, he possessed a talent called Wicked Floria and was favored by one of the angel's kin. He admits to having done everything considered wicked in this world, refusing to blame the kingdom's harsh climate or racial discrimination. It was his own choice to commit such wicked acts. He confesses to being filthy, a villain who lived by hurting others. A faint, bitter smile crosses his face as the lizard man beside him reacts silently. He admits to being a villain who kills for his own desires and profits from it, showing no regrets. Even monsters eat people to survive, and he crushed living beings, turning it into a job to satisfy himself. The lizard man points out the only difference between them is regret. He tries to feed others and wouldn't betray anyone, even at the brink of death, not even for his own life. Despite the world calling him a villain, the man insists he knows the truth. Lizard is a good person. The lizard man struggles to respond, overwhelmed by emotion. The lizard man recalls his final moments, thinking about building a house by the lakeside, echoing what the man had said before. They sit together, acknowledging they are probably lucky. The lizard man reflects on how rare it is to meet someone who shares the same final words at death's door. He looks toward a lakeside house as the man vows to build that house by the lake, promising to earn money, kill enemies, and fulfill his desires to make it happen. The man reaches out his hand, assuring the lizard man that he has his back, and that he is counted on in return. He urges them to talk as they promised. The man speaks about their future and the path to their desires and dreams. Extending his hand again, the lizard man hesitates but moves to reach out in response. The lizard man questions if it's okay for someone like him to dream, confessing that those he hurt won't forgive him. The man smiles warmly, telling him he does dream and that he forgives him. the lizard man, overwhelmed, admits he'll cause trouble, clutching his head as the man reaches out toward him. He confidently claims he'll cause 3 times more trouble, even if the crows are after him. The lizard man questions if those crows are really that dangerous. While the man insists his dream is more important, the lizard man reacts with disbelief, asking if the dream is more important than the threat. The man holds up a small charm and asks if the crows are worse than a dragon. The lizard man bursts out laughing, denying it and saying it's not even close, while the man watches calmly. The lizard man explains that a man who doesn't fear dragons won't be scared of crows. He admits the situation truly amuses him, causing him to laugh until he nearly cries, grateful to the heavens for their existence. The man looks on, slightly unsettled. The lizard man reveals his desire to build a shop by the lake and asks to be part of that dream, willing to stake his life on it. The man agrees, calling it a pact with aligned ambitions, vowing to chase it as long as they breathe, and expresses his liking for the lizard man's resolve. Shadowtooth vows to reach their goal with everything they have, refusing to back out even in the face of death. Filthy swears on his ancestors and suggests marking the start of their dream by drinking the angel church's honey wine, Angel's Kiss. As a symbolic kiss from an angel, Shadowtooth admits he has nothing to share but agrees to the toast. The two share a light-hearted moment, calling each other cheesy as they clink bottles. Nearby, a girl stumbles forward, calling out Mr. With a trembling voice, Shadowtooth and Filthy notice her approach. Shadowtooth recognizes the girl as Nico, who is battered and exhausted. She pleads desperately for help, mentioning Lita and Luca. Filthy gently steadies her, excusing himself as he prepares to assist. Filthy carries the injured Nico, explaining she is badly hurt and that Lita and Luca helped him find her. Shadowtooth remains silent, watching with concern as the side quest updates. A wise choice with the objective to decide the children's fate. 2 figures lie collapsed on the ground, bruised and battered. A cloaked figure steps forward, observing the scene and remarks that the crows, the pursuers, have failed, noting the little girl has escaped. The cloaked figure, wearing a bird-like mask, smiles sinisterly and vows to make the captives talk. Below, Filthy tends to the injured girl Nico, while Shadowtooth crouches nearby, listening intently as the cloaked figure declares they will find where the lizardian and the man in robes are hiding. Shadowtooth urgently asks where the others are, learning that Pero and Shiro have escaped. The girl tearfully explains that Lita and Luca acted as bait. Pleading for help, Filthy grimly warns that their enemies won't hesitate to kill the children. He asks Naruhito what they should do next. Naruhito questions what Filthy means by offering his life, and Filthy tells him to use it however he wants. They discuss the crows as a vast, antisocial syndicate with ties to nobles and guilds, spreading across the empire. Naruhito's expression darkens as he realizes the severity of the threat. Filthy firmly states they cannot save the children, warning Naruhito that the risk outweighs any benefit. The girl accepts this painful truth, apologizing that their relationship ended over 5 copper coins and that they cannot help. Naruhito is left with no choice but to accept the harsh reality. The girl thanks Naruhito for the medicine and apologizes for troubling him. Filthy reassures her gently, and she responds with quiet gratitude. She reflects that no adult has ever been kind to them before, and here, they must survive on their own. Naruhito watches her walk away, burdened by the cruel world they face. The girl, battered but smiling brightly, thanks them for treating her and the others like human beings, saying it made her happy. She bids them farewell, knowing they won't meet again. Shadowtooth questions why she thanks him, and Filthy quietly asks if he's truly okay with this as she walks away into the distance. A side quest titled A Wise Choice begins, outlining the grim task to decide the children's fate by avoiding hostility and escaping the slums without provoking the crows. Shadowtooth insists there's no benefit in helping, claiming they just happen to meet. The girl disappears into a dark alley, marking the quest to leave the slums. Shadowtooth contemplates the harsh reality that abandoning the children is the smart choice to escape the crow's pursuit safely. The girl quietly thanks him, while images of the other children flash behind him. Overwhelmed, he shouts in frustration to reject this cruel logic. He regrets feeding the children, but Filthy tells him to do whatever he wants and to chill. Shadowtooth talks about staffing the bakery, but warnings flash around him. You cannot defeat the crows, abandon the children, and escape the slums. Suddenly, he calls out to Nico, who looks shocked as he rushes toward her. Shadowtooth demands if she can cook, his tone sharp and commanding. She nervously admits she can only roast rats, but he immediately hires her, declaring she's now an official employee of the prestigious Lazar Bakery and his asset. He warns her to bring friends for staffing and that anyone threatening his employees or himself becomes an enemy. She's confused and hesitant, but he insists, telling her not to laugh at him. Filthy watches on silently. The girl's expression shifts from shock to determination as Shadowtooth declares they're going to save the children and orders her to take them there. She suddenly grabs his arm, shouting she loves him, catching him off guard. The side quest, chasing the alley lizard, changes into a special route, warning that leaving the slums safely is no longer possible, triggering a new side quest. Shadowtooth brushes off concerns about trouble, telling Filthy not to touch him and that he's about to start work soon. He admits he's harsh but ready for what's coming. Filthy pledges to follow him anywhere. Shadowtooth smirks and tells him it's time to work as they prepare to move out. The side quest, Wet Work, begins, focusing on rescuing the children and eliminating hostiles, with the crow route removed and its effects disabled. The mood darkens as Shadowtooth's face tightens in shock and sweat drips down his face. A broken bone sound echoes as he faces a grotesque, dripping hand raised in front of him. The narration admits this went totally off script. Shadowtooth lets out a scream, realizing the situation is far worse than expected. A cruel voice remarks that the best sound is breaking a well-raised girl in her prime, lamenting letting the cat-eared girl escape because of her cute voice. The speaker, wearing a dark cloak and a plague doctor-like mask, demands to speed things up, admitting he isn't as free as the other. He confirms the name Lita, addressing the beaten boy with a harsh grip on his shoulder. The cloaked figure sits with fingers steepled, stating the slum trash saw the beaten boy alongside a robed man searching for a lizard. A distant view shows several cloaked figures gathered. The boy, sweating and tense, responds with uncertainty when asked about the robed man. The cloaked figure questions if the beaten boy believes the escaped kid will bring the robed man back to save him. He warns not to get the wrong idea, asserting no one will save brats like him, as only church knights dare oppose the crows in this city. The boy asks if the cloaked man knows someone named Hagi, his expression wary. The cloaked figure names Fargo, Muse, and Leonard as the lowest of the low who don't even qualify as human. He mocks being born into a proper family and confesses his only pleasure is bedding maids or common girls before killing them afterward. The boy kneels beside a large rat, listening in silence as the figure's shadow looms over him. The cloaked figure questions if the sound of a girl screaming is real. Mocking the beaten boy's silence, he recalls how bringing home a runaway rebelling against her father was peak entertainment, as they all shout, "Daddy!" In their last moments, the boy demands to know what the figure means, but the figure calls guys boring and notes the boy doesn't even scream. The boy suddenly feels a sharp stab in his back, the knife piercing his shirt but missing vital spots. The cloaked figure coldly states he avoided the vital spots, leaving the boy crumpled on the ground. The cloaked figure warns the boy to be quick or the robed man he's asking about will be dead. Mocking him as a maggot who doesn't want to die, the boy, clutching his wound, pleads for information, promising to treat the robed man if told where he went looking for the lizardian. The boy begs the cloaked figure not to tell anyone, but finally breaks down and agrees to talk. He reveals the robed man should be at the old mansion at the very back of abandoned House Street, while the cloaked figure silently calls him an idiot. The cloaked figure mocks the boy's uncertain answer about the robed man's whereabouts, deducting points for his joke response. The boy insists they split up immediately, unsure if the robed man remains in the area. The figure dismisses the boy's concern for the others, calling them not worth killing since they will die soon anyway. The boy, shocked, pleads for Lita's help, but the cloaked figure coldly reminds him of his promise to heal the robed man. The boy desperately calls out to Lita, but the cloaked figure smirks, unfazed. The cloaked figure bursts into laughter, ridiculing the boy's trust in others and calling him an idiot for believing anyone would heal Lita. He explains that such promises are only made between humans, implying the boy's hope is naive. The figure orders his companions to return to their task, dismissing the boy's protests as the robed man lies unconscious and vulnerable. The cloaked figure wagers silver on the boy's inevitable breakdown, instructing his men to take bets on whether the boy will snap and charge. The boy pleads for mercy, but the others mock him, placing bets on his failure to act. The boy shouts for them to stop laughing, warning that Lita is about to die, but the figure only laughs harder, enjoying the boy's desperation. The boy screams that Lita is dying, but the cloaked figure coldly retorts that it is merely taking out the garbage. He calls playing with children like the boy one of the fun parts of the job, but then abruptly declares boredom, signaling his disinterest as the boy's pleas fall on deaf ears. The boy struggles desperately to keep the robed man alive, his hands trembling as he presses down, confused and heartbroken. He wonders why the others are laughing at his pain, pleading silently for the man not to die. The robed man weakly tells him to stop, but the boy clings on, desperate to hold on. Tears stream down the boy's face as he clutches the robed man's hand, begging why the angels won't help them. The onlookers mock his prayers, dismissing angels as meaningless. The boy questions why they suffer, feeling abandoned and powerless as the robed man lies still. The boy's tears fall as he admits they're just trying to survive. The cloaked figure orders a retreat, declaring the situation no longer fun and calling the children useless maggots who can't act when it matters. The boy's prayers are seen as futile, though they may offer him some comfort. A thick haze envelopes the scene, obscuring the figures in the distance. The boy and the robed man remain motionless, but suddenly something shifts in the mist. The boy sits beside the robed man, still crying, as a dark shape moves quietly across the ground nearby. A cloaked figure calls out urgently, asking about the kids. Two faint figures emerge through the thick haze. A man, partially obscured by mist, confirms everything is ready with a sinister smile. A command echoes through the swirling air. Kill them, Haze Blade. The wind whips violently, carrying the deadly order. A masked figure reacts in shock, struggling to comprehend what just happened. He falls to the ground, bewildered by the sudden turn of events as a shadowy force swirls around him. The man who gave the order smirks, acknowledging a survivor with a mocking tone. He calls the survivor persistent as dark energy crackles, and he steps forward into the ominous shadows. He reflects on how perfectly the plan worked, even if it was thanks to Lazar. Doubt creeps in as he wonders if he should have left one alive to ask how many were involved. But he quickly dismisses the idea, knowing leaving even one alive is dangerous. He kneels beside a wounded figure, deciding this one looks good enough to keep. Examining a letter, he notes it definitely fits the bill but struggles to read it. Observing the letters wriggle like worms, he decides to have Lazar read it instead, hoping Lazar can decipher the message. Suddenly, he commands, "All right, hands up," as a crossbow is cocked and aimed. Startled, the man raises his hands, and the other smirks while holding a mask. He taunts, asking if the prey he thought was killed actually turned out to be alive, the crossbow still trained on him. The man with the crossbow cocked smirks and taunts the other, asking if the prey he thought was killed actually turned out to be alive. Sweat beads on his face as he questions, "What's wrong? Did the prey you thought you killed turn out to be alive?" The other man, holding the letter, nervously raises his hands and responds, "Don't tell me you're twins." He asks who knows and if the letter can be returned. The man with the crossbow asks if he looked inside the letter, but the other admits he can't read. The letter falls to the ground, and the man with the crossbow praises the letter as a good boy. The nervous man acknowledges the rumor about being an adventurer slave was true. The man holding the letter contemplates the situation, noting the corpse and the living have the same face, puzzled how that works. He asks what they should do about the situation, but the other man interrupts, saying he's the one asking questions. He explains the ability involved can wipe out many people and extract information from corpses without hesitation. He accuses the other of being one of their kind. The nervous man asks where the lizard is and says their boss wants it brought in alive. He admits he'd like more information but calls the other strange. He accuses him of having twisted skills and being one of their kind, questioning why he sides with the children instead. The man with wild hair taunts the other, asking if he understands they're the crows and demands an answer. He mocks the runaway kid's sweet voice, questioning if this is the other's obsession. The man with dark hair calmly declares this is his adventure, smirking confidently. He sarcastically asks what kind of adventure involves abandoning children. Waving his hands as if dismissing the idea, the wild-haired man retorts, calling them worthless maggots. But the dark-haired man sneers that losing many subordinates yet staying cocky is still better than being a fool. The dark-haired man ridicules the other for acting cocky despite losing so many underlings, calling him empty-headed. The wild-haired man activates a combat thought skill, calling the other's line cheap. He notes the other holds a small crossbow and warns anyone who mouths off to him is dead. He analyzes the situation, noting the other closed the distance instead of firing from range, keeping him alive within Hazeblade's reach, though it wouldn't matter if he died. The wild-haired man fires the crossbow, saying, "See ya, and one chance." The dark-haired man immediately dodges, leaping away with a confident smile as the bolt shoots past. The dark-haired man smirks confidently as he prepares to strike. The wild-haired man reacts with surprise and frustration. Narrowly avoiding the attack, the dark-haired man crouches low, readying himself for the next move, catching his opponent off guard. He launches a powerful punch, connecting solidly and causing the wild-haired man to spurt blood from his mouth. The dark-haired man grabs the crossbow from the fallen opponent, declaring he'll take it back. The dark-haired man reveals a sharp object, explaining he tested it on the wild-haired man as a demonstration. He smiles, satisfied that it worked, then drags the injured man to the ground. The wild-haired man, struggling, demands to know who gave the order. The dark-haired man holds up a severed finger, warning that if his opponent dodges or lies, he will lose a finger. The threat hangs ominously in the air. The dark-haired man demands the truth, promising to let the captive go if he confesses. He presses harder, asking who gave the order. The captive panics, claiming no one knows the boss's name. The man insists again, questioning who else is involved and where the associates are. The captive screams, denying anyone else but himself. The man reveals he was the one who guessed this location, swearing he hasn't told anyone about the captive. He questions why the captive is still alive after he supposedly killed him. The captive, trembling, tries to assert his noble lineage but is cut off as the man warns him he's getting cocky. The captive cries out in pain as the man strikes again. The captive desperately calls out his skill, Twin Chance, explaining it creates a nearby duplicate that inherits his consciousness if the original dies. He pleads not to be killed now, claiming he can't use the skill again today. The man offers money and a place in their group, dismissing wasting time on the captive's kind. Then he coldly asks if the captive even knows the names of his associates, leaving the captive confused. The man demands the names of the captive's allies, but the captive refuses, spitting hateful words about the slum children and calling them filthy creatures who shouldn't exist. The man acknowledges the captive was tasked to find the lizard and asks if he knows its name. The captive snarls, refusing to care about the lizard's name, calling it a lizardonian and a cursed race. The man questions why the captive sides with such creatures, pressing the captive further as the captive struggles. Beneath him, the man declares this is his adventure, the story he is walking, and in the adventure he chooses, he refuses to abandon children. The captive reacts with shock and disbelief. The captive questions if the man is insane for risking everything for an adventure. The man calmly names the lizardonian as Lazar, who bakes excellent bread, and identifies the others. The tall one is Lita, the one with the hat is Luca, the cat-eared girl is Nico, the curly-haired one is Pero, and the one being carried is Shiro. The captive struggles, confused why their names matter, while the man says he understands how the captive feels. The man explains the captive doesn't need to know people's names because they don't care whether others live or die. The captive insists they understand, claiming they were chosen by the crows and are a noble crow named Wiseman Bowler. He insists they get each other and names don't matter. The man says he really gets it and then ominously states he is just like the captive. The man grips a knife tightly and coldly tells the captive that their name means nothing to him. The captive pleads desperately, warning the man that the crows won't forgive him and that he'll find no peace. The man coldly reminds him that he memorized Lazar's name and the children's names, and that the captive has learned things he wasn't meant to know. He tightens his grip on a knife, refusing to let the captive live. The captive screams that the man promised not to kill him if he told the truth, but the man only laughs cruelly. The man mocks the captive, asking if he really thinks he'd keep a promise to someone he calls trash. The captive tries to call him a monster, but the man dismisses him with a sinister farewell as the captive collapses. The man coldly calls the captive a scumbag, then pulls the knife from the captive's head. He pulls a cloak over the body, preparing to disappear. The man stands alone in a corridor as a message appears. Objective complete. The side quest Wet Work is finished, with all witnesses eliminated and a new faction registered as the Crows. A warning notes that the man's actions remain undiscovered, but the Crows will eventually see him as a threat, advising him to seek protection or establish his position in the city soon. The lizard-like figure greets the returning man with a simple acknowledgement. The man asks quietly about the whereabouts of the other two, but the figure remains silent, opening a door to reveal two injured people resting inside. A young girl calls out to the man as he approaches the injured. The man speaks to the wounded, apologizing for being a burden despite having stopped the bleeding. The injured man smiles weakly, grateful that the man defeated the crows. The injured man expresses regret for causing trouble and urges the man to rest and recover. He admits he had a goal to be like the man but feels he has failed again and doesn't want to die. The man clenches his injured hand, reflecting on his failure to save anyone. The man reassures himself that there is nothing to fear and that the injured will rest in peace in a place meant only for them and those who cherish them. The young girl and others watch as he explains that the injured is going there first, with the others to follow later. The man asks if the injured will come with him, gripping the wounded hand tightly. He admits he'll try, thinking that someone like him belongs somewhere else. The injured man weakly responds, understanding, and reflects on wanting to leave the city and be like the man. The man reassures him that he will. The injured man, Lita, smiles faintly and thanks the man, who quietly wishes him to sleep well. They stand together under a starry sky, the man flanked by the young girl and the wounded figure. A notification appears, declaring that slum child Lita has died, listing conditions fulfilled including discussing the afterlife and being a dragon slayer. The man reacts with surprise, staring at a small figure seated on a couch, who is identified as the dragon slayer. The young girl turns to face the man, announcing the special event Holy Maiden. Svidak Marshall has occurred. She asks if he wishes to save that child, her presence commanding and mysterious as the scene fades out. The young girl asks quietly if he wishes to save the child lying injured. Her gaze steady and somber. The man looks down at the wounded figure, sweat beading on his face as the weight of the decision presses on him. He wonders silently when she arrived, admitting he never sensed her presence. The girl stands silently, her figure small but resolute, while the man and the lizard-like figure exchange glances, tension thick in the air. The man questions if this other world is truly filled with monsters. His voice edged with suspicion. The girl, looking downcast, tells him not to be so hostile, but the man's eyes narrow as he watches her. She then reminds him that he was at the embassy, confirming he remembers her. The girl introduces herself as SVI, the Angel Church's holy maiden, greeting the man warmly as the Dragon Slayer. The lizard-like figure questions why the church's weapon is here. While SVI shrugs off being called a weapon, she stresses the urgency. The child is about to die, and she asks if he is willing to intervene, her eyes searching his for an answer. He reacts with disbelief, denying any involvement, but is confronted with the truth that he healed the man Draco burned. The small girl reminds him the bishop ordered her to act, and she asks if he can save Lita, the gravely injured boy lying nearby. The girl confidently says it will be easy, flashing a peace sign. She explains the bishop told her to watch over him and make things work somehow. He questions the condition she demands, recalling he didn't come without compensation. She orders Nico to go to Lazar immediately. The girl reassures him not to be so cautious, comparing him to a mouse frightened by a snake. She notes the boy is running out of time, coughing weakly. The injured boy's condition is dire, and the girl's words echo the bishop's urgency. The girl presses the Dragon Slayer to decide if he will save the child. He struggles with the weight of the question, sweat dripping down his face, as the injured boy lies motionless, bloodied and fading fast. The injured boy, Lita, weakly confesses he doesn't want to die. The lizard-like creature calls out to Naruhito, who remains silent, sweat dripping down his face. A small dog barks quietly. Naruhito's resolve hardens as he thinks if Lita can be saved. Then the answer is clear. The small girl asks Naruhito what he will do, reminding him there was never any other choice. Naruhito looks down, overwhelmed, as she pleads with him to save Lita. Naruhito bows deeply, admitting he knows the boy can be healed and accepts any condition to do so. He begs the lizard creature to save Lita and let him live, his voice trembling with desperation. The girl tells Naruhito to look up, praising his clear eyes that resemble the bishop's. She smiles softly and promises to save Lita, moved by his words and determination. The small girl recalls the bishop's instructions to earn some favor, her voice soft but certain. The dark figure's eyes narrow with intensity as he commands her to make sure she saves him. The shadowed figure's silhouette looms ominously as he warns that failure is not an option. Flames flicker fiercely around the kneeling man as a voice declares unforgiveness. The weight of the threat palpable. The girl, calm and composed, acknowledges the man's strength, understanding why he managed to slay the hoarding dragon. The girl shifts to a more thoughtful expression, stating the condition for help. She imagines the bishop's affectionate manner, then firmly declares this is what the bishop would do. She explains the condition. Gathering 50 platinum coins before the winter month of silent snow. The lizard-like man reacts with shock and disbelief at the impossible deadline. While the girl questions if his friend is willing, the man, determined despite the odds, promises to gather the full amount and pleads simply to save his friend. The girl throws a glowing scroll into the air, sealing the deal with a confident declaration. The Graves Bridge scroll is revealed, its power binding any oath sworn upon it to be fulfilled without fail. Even if the contractor becomes a ruined flesh, the lizard warns Naruhito that if he fails to fulfill the contract, he will turn into a zombie. The scroll was thought to have vanished during the Great War, but burial relics only hide, not vanish. Naruhito is cautioned not to sign, but the warning is urgent and dire. Naruhito asks if a thumbprint is enough to sign since he doesn't have a seal, and the lizard offers a knife to make the mark. Despite the warning, Naruhito apologizes for possibly panicking or regretting it later, but insists that Lita is the priority. The saintess is asked to grant her blessing. The lizard asserts that the bridge scroll allows multiple signers, refusing to make his friend take a one-way ride to Limbo alone. Naruhito is called out by name, and the lizard presses the thumbprint onto the scroll, asking the saintess if this is acceptable. Naruhito scolds the lizard for his reckless insistence, calling him an idiot, while the lizard replies that Naruhito is the last person he wants to hear that from. The saintess remarks on how rare it is for a lizardonian to get serious for another race. The scroll is then stamped with a firm seal as Naruhito agrees to the contract. The lizardonian confirms that Shadowtooth and the Dragon Slayer have inscribed their existence on the bridge scroll. The saintess declares the contract recognized under her name, making the oath absolute under angelic power. She announces the sanctification is complete. The black-haired man orders to heal Lita immediately, and the saintess confirms it's done. A radiant light envelopes the three as the healing begins. The black-haired man and the Lizardonian brace themselves while the saintess channels the healing energy. The light cascades over Lita, who lies unconscious but begins to recover. Lita awakens, noticing the pain is gone and flexing his fingers in surprise. The Lizardonian asks if anything feels wrong, and Lita denies it. Nico rushes to Lita, relieved he's okay, while the black-haired man advises Lita to thank the healer. The black-haired man gently touches Lita's forehead, reassuring him. Lita wonders how this healing happened. The black-haired man smiles, saying it's good. Then the saintess thanks the dragon slayer for showing her something interesting and reveals she healed both Lita and his injured arm. The Lizardonian reminds the dragon slayer, Shadowfang, not to forget the conditions of their agreement, and he acknowledges it. The injured child lying down is called amusing by someone watching. The saintess cheerfully invites Shadowfang to visit the Angel Church headquarters anytime once he has saved enough money. The group notices the saintess has disappeared, and the Lizardonian guesses she's most likely gone. They stand in a large, empty room, contemplating her sudden departure. Shadowfang reacts with shock, questioning what kind of monster the saintess was. The others explain she is one of the church's ultimate weapons, the Holy Maiden, whose combat power rivals the Church Knights. They mention there are still monsters like Draco and an old man around, and the Lizardonian reminds Shadowfang that he did kill a dragon. A side quest completion screen appears, showing rewards including a new party member, Lazar, and a skill unlock for Crow Slayer. A hidden quest called Fog Dream is now available, promising deeper understanding of Haze Blade. A worried woman with long hair and a dark cloak anxiously asks Svidak if the saintess will be fine. Her hands clasp tensely as a small figure watches silently behind her. The bishop anxiously reassures herself that she entrusted the Holy Maiden wisely, trusting her not to get unnecessarily involved despite the danger of a dragon. She insists it's fine, though sweat beads on her face betray her worry. Suddenly, she announces her return, greeting Svidak Marshall, who confirms she monitored the dragon slayer and reports he wiped out some crows. The bishop questions the speed of the crow's disappearance, finding it too fast. Svidak explains that fewer nuisance birds is a good thing and reveals she got the dragon slayer to sign a blood-marked abridged scroll. Svidak continues, saying she granted his request for 50 platinum coins by next winter, subtly earning his gratitude as ordered by the bishop. The bishop, startled, wonders why, while Svidak says the dragon slayer reminds her of the bishop herself. Svidak reflects on how the dragon slayer resembles the bishop in the past, prompting the bishop to collapse dramatically, fearing the Angel Church may collapse under her leadership at this rate. The chapter opens with a stained, blood-splattered stained glass window depicting an angelic figure holding a sword, setting a somber and intense tone. The title appears, Interlude, A Knight's Duty. Inside a grand, ornate room, a young saintess in a cloak carefully moves a chair. Her expression calm but focused, she pauses, looking around the room filled with dust and faint light, sensing the weight of her task. The saintess stands beneath a large chandelier, gripping her sword firmly as she surveys the room. Her posture resolute and determined. The quiet atmosphere contrasts with the earlier violent imagery, emphasizing her solemn duty. The saintess admits she made more of a mess than expected, acknowledging the damage left behind. She resolves to clean up the mess. Aware that dirtying someone else's home is wrong, a smaller, embarrassed version of herself appears, nervously apologizing for overdoing it. A young noblewoman cheerfully declares she's cleaning up, ignoring protests from a man who reminds her she belongs to 20 noble houses and demands to know who she is. She casually tries to recall her family name, the Bowler family, while the man angrily insists she's killed all the guards, which should have numbered 50. She admits she's bad at counting but confirms there were that many guards. She points out a crest, prompting the man to sweat nervously. She announces she's here about his third son, surprising him. The man vehemently refuses to betray his son, but she reveals his third son is a church enemy. She mocks his family love, saying she's touched, then insists killing the church's enemies is a knight's duty. Targeting the crows, the man looks distressed as she demands they don't have to kill if they surrender. She declares they aren't enemies but that she's here to execute them. Smiling confidently, she states she's smart enough to know the Angel Church's justice, and anyone opposing it, including the crows and their families, must be purged. The man panics, insisting the church can't touch nobles and claiming ties to the emperor with succession rights. A young knight asks if he knows what happens to orphans in the city. The man nervously lists his eldest son's marriage, his second's engagement, and his youngest being only 8. The knight responds sadly, warning the man not to worry despite the youngest being just a kid, even if she's a knight. Suddenly, the knight thrusts a sword toward the man's face, revealing the eldest son enjoys tearing women apart. The second stuffs little girls into boxes, and the youngest dissects and recombines small animals. The knight cheerfully declares all have been executed so they can be together, leaving the man horrified and confused by her words. With a smile, the knight swings her sword and announces its execution time. The girl cheerfully proclaims justice executed and her good deed completed, proudly celebrating another successful mission. She realizes that if she had used the word justice earlier, she could have asked about the crows. A voice from behind tells her she's already finished, prompting her to quietly leave. Another woman questions if the girl went too far. Addressing her as Claudia, the girl excitedly confirms she found her targets. Though she wishes she hadn't, the woman explains that many lost souls were found in the backyard of the Bowler estate, where the Bowler family regularly discarded their maids. The woman recalls the bishop's information, confirming Wiseman Bowler is one of the crows, marked by a tattoo seen by a recently murdered girl's soul. The girl insists evil is everywhere, waiting to be purged. The woman grimly states no one remains from the Bowler family. The girl asks about the rest. Looking at a bloodied, lifeless body, the woman reacts with shock. The girl smiles, saying those who tried to run were all cut down. She verified they were evil, using justice. The woman apologizes for leaving everything to the girl, who responds with a cheerful, okay. The girl nervously asks if children were there as well, and the woman quietly acknowledges it, while the girl wonders if that is a problem. The girl cheerfully declares only the third son remains, calling him a wise man and a wiener. She rallies to do their best as the sword of the powerless for the church's justice. The woman agrees to accompany her, calling her the finest knight. The girl accuses the woman of teasing her, insisting she knows these things. While the woman apologizes with a smile, the girl winces in frustration. Suddenly, the woman calls out to the girl, Claudia. As a radiant vision appears before them, she says the dead are rejoicing and commands the system to let Stali witness the vision too. The woman conjures a dark, swirling energy called Pale Spear, extending it toward the girl. The girl reacts with awe, whispering Mai. As they both gaze upward at the shimmering light, the girl exclaims that Wiseman is dead. Repeating it in disbelief, the woman explains she had asked others to help track Wiseman. But now it seems unnecessary. They both look up as the vision of the dead continues to glow around them. The girl reflects solemnly, thanking the black-haired man for killing Wiseman Bowler, acknowledging that he died in pain and fear for their sake. The two women observe that the dead have finally faded away, their resentment lifted after suffering for so long. They note someone else is meddling with the crows, just as a voice calls out to Stali, interrupting them. A scout reports a massacre in the slums, revealing that numerous black feather tattoos were found on the corpses, including Wiseman Bowler's. Orders are given to keep investigating and identify the one who stole the church's prey. The girl cheerfully declares they are the swords of the Angel Church, ready to act. The black-haired man commands to eliminate anyone who reached the crows before them and killed them, deeming such a person too dangerous to leave alive. The girl insists they will question the suspect if found, and if he is just, they will stop there, but if he is evil and fails justice, they will act accordingly. The woman smiles softly, her expression calm and confident. She turns slightly, addressing the other woman with a composed tone, calling her the church knight's finest blade. The other woman, a bit nervous but determined, responds that they should continue their enjoyable official duties. The first knight, Stali Puradano, strides forward with purpose, her cloak billowing behind her. Two men watch her leave, one wondering aloud what kind of person she is, referring to her as that black-haired person. The black-haired man surveys the rundown area, noting this is where they live but that Pero and Shiro haven't returned. The girl with cat ears looks up, concerned. Nearby, a man sits quietly as the black-haired man hesitates to speak his name. Ida, you know? The boy clumsily puts a dirty hat on his head, apologizing for the mishap. The blonde-haired boy reassures him, saying Laser picked it up and that dirty is better than nothing. They admit to causing trouble for their older brothers and vow to repay them as much as they can. Sealing their promise with a fist bump, the boy asks why he was brought here after waking up, and the blonde reminds him he was asleep. The black-haired man and the lizard-like companion sit on the ground, the man still uneasy after treatment. Suddenly, the blonde boy shouts Aniki, and the girl joins in, thanking him profusely for saving them all. The girl, tearful, explains she will remember the debt of being saved forever. The black-haired man reacts to being called Aniki. While the blonde insists it's his own way of showing respect, the man admits the truth. When she cried for help, she was terrified, feeling like she was going to die. He urges her to calm down as she breaks down in tears. The black-haired man nervously asks Laser if things aren't getting too heavy, but the lizard-like man calmly replies that Laser brought this on himself. The boy with cat ears and the blonde boy look hopeful as they say they'd like to be hired. The blonde boy insists they don't need pay and will work hard for him, only to get a sharp smack on the head for his outburst. The man warns them that working without pay always ends badly, quoting a great bald man, while explaining they'll start as full-time employees doing general tasks before moving on to specific duties. The kids are surprised by the mention of salary, days off, and bonuses. The man offers them a chance to leave the slums and earn money honestly, but the boy with cat ears quickly rejects the idea, saying they know the slums better than anyone. The boy with cat ears suddenly breaks down crying, begging the man not to touch him if this is a dream. While the blonde boy tries to comfort him, the black-haired man tells them not to cry, but the lizard-like man laughs and calls Laser a bad guy for making kids cry repeatedly, while the blonde boy asks what is going on. The black-haired man tells them to shut up, but the two kids look shocked as the blonde boy suddenly yells Luca, and the black-haired man is startled. The lizard-like man urges them to leave quickly since Luca has woken up. The boy with the dirty hat confirms the rest of the story is already known, and the blonde boy agrees, looking relieved. Relief floods the group as one cries out in gratitude, embracing two children tightly. A blonde boy with a mop of hair asks if everyone is okay, smiling warmly while carrying a baby on his back, assuring that they are fine and happy everyone is safe. The black-haired man urges the group to move on, while the children explain they were hiding and fell asleep. Now all together, a stern woman smoking a cigarette greets them with a curt welcome as the group approaches a building. Scenes show the man interacting with others, being denied entry at first but then allowed inside. Inside, the woman scolds the children, calling them a scruffy bunch and demanding to know if they are eating. She points to a sign about payment and instructs them to use the back room. The children hurriedly eat and wash up as the woman watches, overseeing their care. The black-haired man reflects on the sleeping children, noting how the world outside the slums is unknown to them and they must be tired. He explains that the slums are their only place to survive unless protected by an eccentric benefactor. The lizard-like companion agrees, while the man declares that from now on, the children will work properly, calling it protection. He calls out to Taro, explaining that for the children, having a job and companionship is a miracle. He imagines going on an adventure with the dog, helping many people because that sounds more fun. The two sit at a table in a dimly lit room as he suggests discussing their next steps. Before that, the lizard-like companion offers a drink, pouring it into a cup. He drinks carefully, noting the honey scent and savoring the taste. The companion calls it an angel's kiss, an angel blessing. The companion explains the drink is made by fermenting honey, turning it into a heavenly beverage guarded by the church for over 200 years. He scoffs at the idea of fermentation like alcohol or bread dough, calling it a joke. The drink's transformation is credited to the angel's power, leaving the man quietly contemplative. The lizard-like companion questions if Naruhito really doesn't know how alcohol or bread are made, revealing it's a secret known only to bishops or saints of the angel church. Naruhito shrugs off the topic, saying he'll stay out of it. He praises the angel's work despite calling it fermentation, prompting the companion to snap at him to shut up. Naruhito shifts the conversation back to their main topic, asking what's next. A young man, apologizing for falling asleep, asks to join in. The lizard-like companion addresses Naruhito as black-haired slave, crossing his arms as they prepare to discuss their next move. The companion asks what their next move will be after the recent rampage. The young man eagerly pledges to follow and do anything. Naruhito smirks, acknowledging their loyalty, and declares it's time to climb up. Naruhito reflects on the harshness of the city after seeing the slums, expressing frustration that the weak get robbed. He resolves to climb all the way to a place where no one can take from them again, as the sun rises behind a distant, towering fortress atop a hill. He grins confidently, declaring they're climbing fast. The lizard-like companion reminds him that climbing takes money, the young man listening intently. The man admits they're on a timer to repay a debt or face game over, but reassures the boy not to worry. He explains he chose this path to make his move in the city, while the companion says helping a dying kid is just what an adult does. The man struggles to express himself clearly, calling words complicated and suggesting they keep things simple. The man smirks, announcing they must first make money and begin the fun of earning it. The lizard-like companion listens as the man questions how a traveler with no money, power, or status can make a name in an adventurer city. The companion states that in Adventurer City Agatra, the story is different. The man smiles knowingly, acknowledging that what might be dismissed as drunken talk elsewhere holds truth here. The Adventurers Guild looms large, its grand architecture signaling the heart of the city's adventuring world. A man observes the scene, noting how the guild's young members are already doing their part. reminding himself that they can't afford to slack off. Approaching the guild entrance, the man and his lizard-like companion prepare to enter. The man politely calls out, excusing their passage as they step inside the bustling guild hall. Inside, the man strides confidently through the crowded hall, his cloak billowing behind him. The guild is alive with activity, adventurers mingling and preparing for their next quests. The scene shifts to a busy guild counter where a woman instructs newcomers to line up properly. Nearby, a group discusses their lack of money and dwindling supplies, while a burly man complains about the difficulty of drinking at large tables. Suddenly, the man from earlier appears, catching the attention of those around him as he moves through the crowd. A faint, unsettling smile crosses the man's face as he steels himself. Without looking back, he declares their next move, urging to get to work alongside his lizard-like companion. The panther complains about his itchy beard, while the wolf-headed man laughs and offers his oil for thick hair. The panther muses that if elves existed here, they'd complete the full fantasy race set. The man with the newsboy cap nervously notes that pure elves probably don't exist, but half-elves might be found in this city. He's relieved that elves aren't part of the official settings. A mermaid figure appears, suggesting you might encounter one in this city. A cloaked man stands alone in a bustling tavern, the lively atmosphere filled with patrons and busy servers. The scene shifts to the kitchen where cooks prepare food, emphasizing the tavern's vibrant activity. The tavern's noisy crowd continues with patrons drinking and chatting. A server rushes by, and a close-up shows a mug of frothy drink. The man in the cloak begins a conversation, asking about a shop he recently visited. The response comes with curiosity, prompting him to share his experience. The conversation turns lively as a man excitedly describes a visit to a brothel featuring a cute beastkin girl, calling it amazing. A woman teases him about his enthusiasm for such things. The scene shifts to a glamorous brothel setting, where a stylish woman and two companions boast about the reign in brothel's top-class girls and a fresh reverse selection system. The atmosphere is dazzling, with patrons praising the intense and strong appeal of the establishment. The man reflects on how no matter where he goes, people talk about the same things. Nearby, a conversation about something expensive unfolds, with one person reassuring another that just getting in won't cost much. He admits he didn't have time to look around and feels like he's at a theme park. He notices a bustling crowd and reacts with curiosity. A cheerful woman calls out for people to form a line at the hunting counter. A long queue of adventurers and rookies gathers, eager to register. The man observes the busy registration area, noting how it's packed with those desperate for the best-paying jobs. He comments on the crowd's energy but admits he has no desire to push through it, deciding to watch from a distance since registration will take time. Suddenly, the Lizardian is scolded by a rough-looking man for blocking the way. The Lizardian apologizes, but the man expresses disbelief and disdain at seeing a Lizardian here. A burly man confronts the Lizardian, accusing him of trying to steal and declaring there's nothing worth taking. The Lizardian apologizes quietly, not wanting trouble, and his companion urges him to leave. They walk away silently, tension lingering. The Lizardian glances back, noting the man was the one who bumped into him first. They continue moving forward, the Lizardian's gaze sharp and wary. The burly man mocks the Lizardian for being unable to watch where he's going, calling him a moron. The Lizardian's companion steps in, apologizing for his friend's behavior and telling the man to drop it. The burly man scoffs but backs off as the Lizardian steadies himself. The burly man suddenly lashes out, demanding to know what was just said about him. The Lizardian reassures his companion he's fine and urges them to avoid causing problems here, suggesting they step away for now. The tension remains thick as they prepare to leave. A man comments that Jill is bullying someone again, while another suggests turning the Lizardian into a slave. The first warns not to kill him like last time. A woman recalls how the poor guy came from the countryside, got messed with immediately, and even had his girl taken, reminding that adventurers are on their own. They decide to come back later to avoid trouble. The Lizardian's companion steps forward, firmly refusing to comply with the threat. The burly man demands he repeat himself, glaring down at the pair. The Lizardian challenges the burly man, accusing him of smelling like booze and questioning if he has a problem. He mentally assesses the man as untrained, weak in the lower body, and basically useless despite his size. He calls him killable and tells him to stop mumbling. The burly man angrily retorts, but the Lizardian mocks him, saying maybe his face and brain are the real problem. The man lunges to attack, but the Lizardian swiftly counters with a strike to the face, causing the man to cry out in pain. He strides forward with determination, while the other, crouched and battered, warns him he's slow. The man is described as fairly capable, specializing in brute force, but thoughtless, filthy, and savage. Exactly what the other hates. He coldly reminds that if you're ready to kill, you must be ready to be killed. calling the man someone who doesn't need to exist. The man hesitates, struggling under the weight of the words. Another voice urgently tells Naruhito to stop. He questions himself, wondering if he has truly become someone who doesn't hesitate to kill. Naruhito smirks darkly as he tightens his grip, asserting that it's too late now. The tension rises as he prepares to act, but a sharp command cuts through the moment. An archer suddenly appears, aiming an arrow at Naruhito, ordering him not to move and demanding to know who he is. A third figure stands nearby, declaring they are on underground duty, confronting the black-haired boy and the others. A figure scolds Naruhito, calling himself the babysitter for hot-headed idiots like him and demanding he stop causing more trouble. Naruhito raises his hands in surrender, while the figure asks him not to move and accuses him of giving off an unpleasant wind. Naruhito senses a strange wind, muddy and smelling of blood, yet oddly warm. He notes it as a mysterious, bizarre wind where evil and goodness are tangled together. The lizard-like companion remarks that if Naruhito smells like blood, then he's the same. The figure warns Naruhito not to move, calling him one embraced by misdeeds and wrapped in Floria's wind. Admitting that Naruhito scares him as well, nearby, a woman with silver hair catches the attention of others, prompting whispers about her identity. The woman with the silver hair is recognized as the real deal, someone never seen before. Naruhito is identified as the black-haired one who clashed with surviving lichens and is linked to hoarding dragons. The group senses the growing noise around them, signaling approaching trouble. A woman with a large, ornate hat and long braided hair asks the man if he can slowly turn around just like that. He nervously agrees, beginning to turn his head. The woman's face is revealed, her eyes sharp and intense as she utters the name, Wenfilbarna. Her expression shifts to a slight, knowing smile. The man reacts with surprise and recognition, shouting the full name, Wenfilbarna Gilvanciflul Tusk. She confirms she is the former hero party's archer, and he realizes she was here all along. A notification appears, triggering a hidden quest titled, Know Your Name. It confirms the condition is fulfilled by recalling the meeting with the traveler Wenfilbarna Gilvasal Tusk and encountering the tower-rank adventurer Wenfilbarna. The man's affinity with her has dropped below zero, shifting their relationship to hostile. The man's eyes widen in shock as the woman in the fur-lined hat and dark mask suddenly leaps, driving her knee forcefully into his chest. The impact sends him crashing backward, stunned and overwhelmed by the sudden attack. The woman's expression shifts to one of cold intensity as a quest notification hovers above her. Quest objective: survive against Tower-class adventurer Wenfilbarna. She leans forward, pointing directly at him, demanding fiercely who told him that name. The woman in the fur-lined hat lunges forward, grabbing the man by the collar with fierce intensity. A quest notification appears, demanding survival against the tower-class adventurer Wenfilbarna. She snarls, demanding to know who told him that name. The man, caught off guard, is called out by name. Naruhito. The woman's grip tightens as she warns him to stay away, her eyes wild and unyielding. She drags him forcefully, her hand gripping him as she prepares to strike. The man's breath catches, and a sharp motion sends an object flying through the air. The woman's voice cuts through the tension. She will ask again. Her hand cracks ominously as she demands an answer, her face shadowed in rage. Nearby onlookers react in shock, whispering about the sudden fight breaking out. The woman's command echoes. Answer me, human. The lizard man suddenly freezes, unable to move as the woman in the fur-lined hat commands silence. Calling him vermin, he struggles, realizing he can't move, while the man nearby shouts in disbelief, accusing him of amnesia and mentioning something called the Sierra Special. The woman demands an answer, threatening to kill both the lizard man and the man if he doesn't comply. The man questions her identity, recalling she was supposed to be an elf, but she calmly denies it, insisting she is not an elf. The man nervously asks if he angered her, pleading for her to stop pointing a killing intent at him. She coldly declares she will kill him and let the wind answer, prompting the man to sarcastically ask if she's quoting J-pop lyrics. Her final word is a chilling command to die. A dark, ominous aura swirls around the woman as she repeats the deadly command, just die, while the man remains on the ground, helpless beneath her power. The lizard man calls out urgently to Naruhito. A swirling haze blade forms around them with maximum output but minimal range. While Lazar remains outside its reach, Naruhito steels himself, willing to use the attack even if it means destroying himself. Naruhito braces as he and the woman with the fur-lined hat are swept away by the force of the haze blade. The woman calmly remarks, well, as they land, her boots touching the ground with purpose. A system notification declares the quest has progressed to a special route after achieving the status of friend to the hoarding dragon. The lizard man, still catching his breath, addresses the woman as Your Excellency. Surprised by her perfect timing, she gazes at him silently. The woman steps forward confidently, a slight smile on her lips as she calls out, Draco. A woman with sharp eyes and a sly smile addresses Naruhito. Noting he doesn't appear injured, she criticizes his manners as worse than expected, calling him Archer. The woman's expression is cold and commanding as she confronts him. She continues, mocking those who cannot distinguish right from wrong, saying without a hero, they are no better than beasts. She calls them pitiful servants who lost their masters. Trapped by obsession and truly pathetic, Naruhito and the woman walk away, her long hair flowing behind her. Naruhito's eyes widen in shock as she asks if he should take her words as an insult. He falls back, overwhelmed. The woman recalls their past, reminding him that when they traveled together, he was just a hatchling newly emerged from his egg. The woman laughs confidently, accusing Naruhito of speaking as if he knows everything. She questions if her words were too rude toward a great predecessor, leaving Naruhito stunned and speechless. A woman with long flowing hair and a confident stance remarks that dignity does not always grow with years. Her expression twists into a fierce glare as she calls someone a fool. She commands the immediate release of a man held captive, noting the captor's obvious attachment to him. The woman then peers closely at the man, asking if he is the one who killed her. The woman hums cheerfully, declaring her work pretty good but refuses to share it, unwilling to involve someone so bloodstained. She accuses the man of being cursed and evil since birth. Visible to all, the captive, Naruhito, looks uneasy as the woman addresses him directly, asking what he will do now. The woman warns that she will make this retreat soon and scolds Naruhito for trampling on a friend's feelings. She questions the nature of their bond, calling it obsession and love-hate rather than friendship. Naruhito is caught off guard, and the woman challenges him, asking if he has anyone he could truly call a friend. He denies it, saying it has nothing to do with her. The woman bursts into a mocking laugh, calling the situation pitiful. Naruhito, surprised, asks her to excuse him, clearly unsettled by her cruel amusement. The narration reveals that those connected only to the singularities are now isolated. The sword saint has fallen, the rogue has vanished into shadow, and the mage disappeared into the tower. A woman declares that no one will be left searching for the man lying on the ground, telling him he will remain alone until his death. She calls him a twisted existence, a dragon who cherishes human life, and confronts him with his lack of belonging. The man, a singularity chosen by the star that destroyed the king, challenges the notion of loneliness with a confident smirk. He claims to be a higher existence, created stronger and more sacred than others to stabilize the world's concept. The narration calls him the apex in solitary. The singularity reflects that his current self is different from the past version who would have fit the lonely description. He reaches out his hand, declaring he has found something. The scene shifts to a man recalling painful memories. The one who killed him, a rejected marriage, and a greedy friend who decided everything for him. His expression is anguished and conflicted as he confronts these harsh truths. The man grimaces, struggling as a woman with horns and sharp eyes delivers a final warning, calling him Archer. She grips her cloak tightly, her voice cold and resolute. The woman demands the release of her friend, her long hair flowing as she stands firm, radiating authority and determination. Another woman, dressed in a detailed outfit with a bonnet, firmly refuses the demand, stating she has already made her position clear, standing over the man on the ground. A mysterious voice calls out to the two women, swirling shadows or smoke forming around the words, signaling an ominous presence or intervention. A finger slams down with force, demanding attention as a swirling dark presence looms behind a woman standing over a man struggling on the floor. She harshly questions what the two have been doing while blatantly ignoring her. Suddenly, a sharp alert breaks the tension as a woman with short hair shouts a name, Naruhito, while a lizard-like man echoes it. The man on the floor smirks darkly, revealing that the haze blade has already spread throughout their surroundings, signaling a dangerous escalation. The haze blade has already spread throughout the surroundings, swirling ominously as it envelopes the area. A figure in a fur-lined hat stands firm, the dark mist curling around her, while a man lies beneath her, caught in the spreading haze. The dark smoke rises from the man's body as he struggles to stand. Facing the woman with the fur hat, she questions if he was trying to kill her with himself, but he smirks, praising her instincts. The man explains he only adjusted his actions to survive, claiming he's sane and always scored full marks on psychological evaluations. The woman in the fur hat demands if he's lost his mind, but he brushes it off, turning away as another woman approaches, calling his name Naruhito. Naruhito faces the woman with long silver hair adorned with shell-like decorations, who calls him Draco. He apologizes for dragging her into trouble, but she allows him to stand beside his dragon, acknowledging their bond despite the complications of friendship. The woman in the fur-lined hat admits that something doesn't sit well with her, her wide eyes reflecting unease. Both she and the man beside her exchange tense glances, the man struggling to find words. Suddenly, a rapid movement catches the man's attention, causing him to flinch in surprise. The woman winces in pain but quickly regains composure, addressing the man formally as my lord, while he nervously tries to speak. The man pleads desperately, unable to help those in danger, while the woman with long silver hair warns that the place is unsafe and demands withdrawal. The man collapses in frustration, and the woman in the cloak approaches with a respectful yet firm demeanor. A confident woman with glasses strides forward, her presence commanding as the man follows her with a hopeful expression. She formally addresses the two others as Hoarding Dragon-sama and the proud hero party member Wenfil Barna-sama, signaling the gravity of the situation and their roles. The woman with glasses, the guild master, confronts the man in the fur-lined hat, addressing him as Heidi Marikuin and acknowledging his presence. She warns that if she is mistaken, he may deal with her as he wishes, but insists on her duty to protect adventurers within the guild. She demands he recall the regulations imposed on tower-class adventurers, emphasizing that no personal combat is allowed inside the guild. The man with long hair calmly states he is both a dragon and a tower-class adventurer, while the guild master reacts with a tense expression. The man in the cloak asks if things have calmed down, but the guild master and a stout man urge him to take action. The man apologizes and promises not to bring up the issue again, though he admits he was also impressed by the dragon-like presence of the old man. The guild master questions if the hero party truly tramples the brave actions of innocent people. The man in the fur-lined hat apologizes for causing a disturbance and says he will make a formal apology later. The guild master and the stout man bow respectfully, thanking the hero for his consideration. A woman with a long braid and a fur hat silently listens as someone asks the black-haired man his name. He replies, Tuyama Naruhito. The woman bids him welcome to Adventurer City, but warns she hopes they never meet again, calling him a newcomer who carries an unpleasant wind as she turns away. A swirling wind sound fills the air. A man praises Naruhito for defeating a woman with words alone. Naruhito asks why the man is here, and the man laughs, boasting that having Draco as an ally is a strong asset. Naruhito looks uneasy. The woman with the braid, Draco, smiles and says she has been looking for Naruhito. He looks confused and uneasy. Sensing a bad feeling, nearby, a group watches the interaction nervously. The man sitting on a couch introduces himself as Awesome from Terrazia and says, Very well. Draco reclines confidently on a couch, telling Naruhito to be at ease and that she allows it. A woman in glasses interrupts, bowing respectfully and apologizing for causing trouble. She mentions that the hoarding dragon lowered her spear this time for the sake of the weak ones. The woman with long hair apologizes, saying the lord appears tired, causing surprise among the others. The woman in glasses tries to ask a question but is cut off as the other woman insists he should rest. From behind, the woman with long hair asks Naruhito how long he will remain in his current state. The woman invites the lizard-like figure to sit, granting permission with a smile. She points to the seat next to her, reserved for Naruhito alone. While the others may take any seat, Naruhito thanks her, though he looks uneasy, and she urges to hurry while the mood lasts. The group prepares to discuss the main topic. The woman proposes forming a party with Naruhito and the lizard-like figure. The woman in glasses questions the party registration, and the woman explains it involves Naruhito, the lizard-like figure, and herself. She hands over a document, apologizing that the guild enforces strict rules on party formation. The lizard-like figure demands an explanation. The woman explains the adventurer ranking system, showing a pyramid with tower class at the top, followed by ranks 1 through 4. She states parties can only form within a 1-rank difference for safety and fraud prevention. This means forming a party with Naruhito and the lizard-like figure would violate the rules. The woman in glasses clarifies that normally one starts at the lowest rank, rank 4. The woman with long hair reacts in shock, realizing they are not even officially registered yet. The woman in glasses explains that guild rules are a promise between adventurers and the guild, and dragons keep their promises as a matter of pride. She stresses that one cannot simply jump straight to rank 1. Though there are rare precedents, advancement usually happens 1 rank step at a time, requiring achievements, contributions, and noble approval. Many adventurers remain stuck at rank for their entire lives, and recognition typically starts at rank 3. The dragon-like man insists that being a dragon slayer is the greatest achievement possible. The woman acknowledges his undeniable achievements but insists that jumping straight to rank 1 remains impossible. She urges Naruhito to hurry and reach rank 1. The dragon-like man quietly confesses he wants to be Naruhito's strength. Naruhito reacts to the dragon-like man's earnestness, teasing him for acting cute like a kid. He admits he will catch up soon and emphasizes the need to work hard and earn money regardless. Naruhito confirms that higher ranks get better paying requests. Though the difficulty also increases, the woman agrees silently. When asked how she knows he's becoming an adventurer, the dragon-like man refuses to tell him. The dragon-like man admits it would sound like sneaking around to look into Naruhito, so he won't reveal the truth. Naruhito realizes he was being tailed and notes the dragon-like man has similar habits. The woman in glasses awkwardly confirms this is indeed the hoarding dragon. The dragon-like man, blushing, insists he'll just buy a house, but quickly adds Naruhito would hate that kind of thing. Naruhito promises to work hard so he can party with the dragon-like man, who insists on an absolute promise. Naruhito groans as the man accuses him of smelling bad despite bathing and doing laundry. The dragon-like man suddenly detects a distinct scent, declaring it the smell of an angel. The dragon-like man questions if Naruhito met someone from the church, specifically a Brigi Scroll girl. Naruhito confirms he gave a signature to someone named Prigi Scroll after being helped by a saint from the church. The dragon-like man laughs mockingly, calling Naruhito a money grubber and accusing Angel's puppets of corrupting him. Naruhito's expression turns uneasy as the man demands to know what Naruhito agreed to. Naruhito explains he must earn 50 platinum coins by winter in exchange for saving a kid. The dragon-like man asks if Naruhito intends to earn that money on his own. Naruhito affirms he doesn't walk away from deals or vows. The dragon-like man accepts this and challenges Naruhito to prove himself by overcoming the trial of the angels. A figure with long hair and pointed ears commands Farron, informing her that a familiar has already been sent to the church. He orders that they be told to explain everything, observing a strange dance. He wonders if it's a provocation. Resolute, he declares he must teach her again what it means to be a dragon, addressing her as Draco. The long-haired figure thanks Naruhito for his help today and offers a handshake. Naruhito hesitates. Asking if a handshake is bad, the figure laughs, calling him a fool and assures him it's not bad. Though his grip is too strong, despite the pain, the figure says he must go, joking that dragons are strong. The figure bids farewell to Naruhito and Marie. Entrusting Marie with the others, he wishes Naruhito a fine adventure and says goodbye to Draco. As they prepare to leave, a dark swirling aura surrounds them. Naruhito and the others watch, impressed by the cool way they depart. Back at the Adventurer Guild, Heidi Marie Kuin nervously addresses Naruhito and the dragon-like man. Welcoming them once again, Naruhito responds with a simple thanks, standing beside the reptilian figure. A cheerful woman announces that Naruhito's adventurer registration is complete and hands him his rank 4 card. She briefly explains the job system. Quests involve accepting a task, receiving a tag from the client, and exchanging it at the guild for a reward. The other type is hunting, where materials like meat and fur from monsters become the reward. She adds that if he plans to hunt, weapons are lent out, offering him a guidebook. Naruhito, surprised, admits he didn't know about the weapons. Naruhito heads to the room at the end of the reception to borrow a weapon. He tells the attendant he'd like to borrow one and is told to use whatever he likes and return it afterward. The room is filled with various weapons and shields neatly arranged. Naruhito picks up a mace and shows it off to Laser. Excited about the smashing power, Laser advises him not to swing it around recklessly and points out there are swords available too. Naruhito, unimpressed with cutting and slicing, prefers smashing as the best approach. Naruhito selects a weapon, telling the attendant he'll take it, who responds with approval. As they leave, Naruhito and Laser consider wearing hoods for their next steps. Naruhito puts on a hood, reluctantly, while Laser agrees, both preparing for what lies ahead as they walk through a crowd. They explain how hunting builds connections with merchants, who rely on the guild for monster materials. While adventurers gather those materials, the concept of partnership between merchants and adventurers is acknowledged as sensible. The conversation shifts to teaming up with someone who consistently brings needed materials, which would help if running a bakery later. They agree to first choose their prey, settling the matter with a small book passed between them, though one can't read it. A guidebook shows rank 3 monsters around Agatora recommended for beginners: Giant Boar, Milebird, and Horn Rabbit. They note the guildmaster gives out free monster information, which is unusual but helpful. They mock those who don't understand the importance of information, then pick a prey. Titanos Maya, a rank 1 monster. One expresses excitement that this enemy suits his weapon perfectly. While the other doubts the choice, they confirm the target's location to Naruhito. They arrive at the towering East Gate, noting that submitting their application here will allow them to hunt monsters on the plains beyond. One remarks on the wall's immense height and mentions a rumor that it was built to defend against dragons. Suddenly, a voice commands them to stop. A guard blocks their path, stating only those authorized by the Adventurers Guild may pass beyond this point. They identify themselves as adventurers and present their ID, but the guard notices their bronze badge and asks for a hunting permit. The guard recognizes the lizard-like adventurer's origin as Lizardonian. The guard sneers, insulting the guild for accepting their kind. While the lizard adventurer vows to thank the Empire for its generosity, the guard threatens to cut off any hands that touch the locks on the gate. The hooded adventurer reminds himself to stay calm, acknowledging that Lazar is handling the situation maturely and that losing his temper would be pointless. He sighs, realizing they have already caused enough trouble, and asks if they've checked everything they needed. The guard warns them that causing trouble will lead to detention, and when the lizard adventurer responds with frustration, the guard scolds him for his attitude. The hooded adventurer quietly tells the lizard to stop, explaining these are church patrols. Resigned, they accept the situation with a fine, whatever, as the scene ends with a close-up of the lizard adventurer's gloved hand. The guard asks if the guild informed them about the toll and processing fee. Laughing as he insists on collecting it, the hooded adventurer replies that the guild never mentioned such a thing. The guard shrugs, calling it a communication failure, then loudly declares they must collect a fee since the group wants to leave. The guard notes the adventurer's rank is only 4 and that they're not even in a party, questioning if they have a deposit. The hooded figure thinks the guild's textbook rules are useless. The guard warns that if they can't pay 1 silver coin, they won't pass, or else face jail for interfering with church duties, adding that either option works for him. The hooded adventurer reluctantly agrees and apologizes for the trouble. The guard remarks that if the adventurer were a woman, there might be other ways to pass, but being a Lizardonian man complicates things. They discuss a country girl from before, lamenting how she was discarded despite seeming decent and probably from a good household, noting she was enjoying herself by the end but hasn't been seen in a week. Before paying, the hooded adventurer asks what the church thinks about dragons. The guard demands payment immediately or threatens arrest. The adventurer admits curiosity about dragons. The scene triggers a speech challenge with the objective to persuade or intimidate the church patrol, involving the guild master, Angel Church, Dragon Embassy, and guild reform factions. The hooded man casually mentions the guild master grumbling about dragons and rumors of someone making pocket money at the East Gate without guild or church permission. The guard reacts with surprise. The man smirks, confident the guard wouldn't know those involved, and promptly offers to pay. He tosses a shining coin toward the guard. The man quickly corrects himself, revealing the coin is gold-colored but not actual money. He jokes about becoming acquainted with the toll from now on and vows to remember the guard's face. The guards notice the golden adventurer's badge, recognizing it as a tower-class emblem, recalling the earlier dragon and guild master encounter. The guards express disbelief, accusing the man of trying to fool them with a toy. The hooded figure remains calm as one guard lunges forward aggressively. The guard collapses, stunned by the man's power. Others confirm the badge's authenticity, realizing the man is the adventurer slave who killed the hoarding dragon mentioned in church reports. Rumors say he is a black-haired man and a Lizardonian. The guards demand he remove his hood immediately, addressing him with urgency. The man calmly agrees with a faint smile, pulling up his collar. He questions if the other is truly the enemy aligned with the dragons and the guild. The other recalls the black hair and wonders if the rumors were true. The man explains the guild is restructuring, targeting those involved in bribery and corruption. Guards nearby grimace in pain as he casually picks up a dropped item. He notes the cleverness of the corrupt in leaving no evidence. He reveals a decoy operation using newcomers acknowledged by dragons but vulnerable as bait. Despite appearances, he admits to not being as diligent and prefers to avoid trouble. The man concludes that rumors about bribery demanding gatekeepers were just that. Rumors, this means less work and a quieter outcome. He then asks again what the matter was, preparing to move forward. He scratches the back of his head with a faint smile, asking quietly how much the toll was, his eyes narrowing with a hint of suspicion. The guards reluctantly confirm his paperwork is in order, warning that the gatekeeper's attitude has turned hostile and they might try to silence him or trace the children. They bid him good hunting as he passes through the gate. One guard clenches his jaw in frustration. Outside the gate, the man and the lizard-like companion exchange uneasy glances. The companion questions if this is truly fine, recalling the nasty looks they saw in the guard's eyes. The man instructs the companion to take deep breaths, explaining he has adjusted something just in case. The guards inside the gate begin to exhale a dark mist, activating a sinister haze blade. The lizard-like companion watches carefully, acknowledging the threat with a serious expression. The man and his lizard-like companion walk through a vast, empty corridor, the walls towering above them. The man declares that now there is nothing left to worry about. his hand pressed to his chest as they move forward. A report appears, stating 6 church patrol members were eliminated by the Haze Blade. Their relationship with the gatekeepers reset to none, all witnesses deceased, and no criminal record incurred. The man, glancing sideways, says they are now back on track, while the companion quietly responds with an acknowledgement. Outside, the man looks up at the open sky, surrounded by clouds and faint stars. A moment of calm and awe. Both he and the companion stand at the threshold between the dark corridor and the bright outdoors, the man softly exclaiming in surprise as they step into the light. The man stops, eyes wide, taken aback by the immense wall towering before them. His companion asks what's wrong, and he admits to being surprised by the sheer size. They exchange a glance as he acknowledges the enormity of the structure. The scene shifts to a vast, open landscape under a cloudy sky, emphasizing the emptiness beyond the wall. The man and his companion stand near a dense thicket, the companion explaining that from here, the roads stretch across the empire, mostly on this side. The man responds with a quiet acknowledgement, absorbing the vastness of their path ahead. They walk side by side, the man noting the road doesn't look fully paved. His companion warns it's too dangerous out here, suggesting the empire likely can't afford to maintain the roads properly. Both seem aware of the challenges awaiting them beyond the city's edge. 2 figures walk through tall grass, the wind stirring the blades around them. The scene shifts to a textured view of the grass, then focuses on one man's profile as the other calls out his name, Naruhito. Naruhito pauses, looking out over the field with a faint smile, appreciating the view. He then turns to his companion, suggesting they discuss their prey. The companion agrees, nodding thoughtfully. They talk strategy, considering horned rabbits as a good starting point for their hunt. Noting the value of their fur, meat, and medicinal horns, the conversation moves to the main target. A giant snake named Titanos Maya, known to be a challenge even for seasoned adventurers. The snake hides in its den, making it hard to find, but locating it is key. Naruhito holds a blade, noting it pairs well with his haze blade technique. His companion silently acknowledges this. They agree that with the right mist conditions, their plan is feasible, though the open terrain will make the hunt difficult. The man explains he wants to kill the snake in one hit because spamming attacks causes insane backlash. But they must approach without being noticed since it's a snake. Suddenly, the ground sinks beneath him, and a large claw pokes, signaling danger nearby. Startled, he asks how Lazar managed this, and Lazar reveals he received a skill from Floria the Wicked, one of the angels, allowing him to hide within shadows. Lazar demonstrates that he can hide up to 2 adults in his shadow. Explaining how he gathered Luca and others, the man reflects on how the skill was never meant to save people. Suddenly, an arrow flies past them, and Lazar signals to move quietly through the tall grass. They spot a massive beast grazing quietly, its low cry echoing through the field. The man identifies the sound as the creature's cry, while the 2 hide nearby, preparing for what lies ahead. The man wonders if the massive beast is afraid of something as it nervously shifts in the tall grass. Suddenly, the creature stiffens, sensing a presence nearby. The man grimaces, realizing they've run into the beast unexpectedly. The creature's thick tail cracks sharply as it moves. The beast's enormous tail crushes the grass beneath it with a heavy crunch, signaling its power and size. The creature is revealed as Titanos Maya, a colossal, ancient beast. The 2 hunters remain hidden in the grass, watching the massive form with tense anticipation. The side quest objective appears. Defeat the rank 1 monster Titanos Maya. The massive beast is seen curled up, feeding. A man hidden in the tall grass admits they no longer need to search, apologizing for interrupting the creature's meal as it becomes their prey. The lizard-like companion agrees quietly, while a shadowy tendril coils nearby, addressed as Beloved Shadow. The lizard-like figure calls out to Floria, a great kin of wickedness, asking her to grant her veil to her child and cloak the child's sins within the shadow. The shadow tendrils writhe and drip ominously as the man reacts with surprise and confusion. The man, now resolved, tells the companion to do as they like, promising backup. He declares their readiness to begin. They both rise, the shadow tendrils swirling at their feet as they prepare to face the challenge. Titanos Maya's enormous, dark form coils and watches silently. The man embraces the shadowy mass, while Floria crouches nearby in the tall grass, both poised for the confrontation ahead. The massive eye of Titanos Maya fixes on the approaching figure as the man smirks confidently, declaring it's showtime for Haze Blade. His foot steps forward decisively, signaling the start of their confrontation. Inside a grand hall, a formal man announces the awaited arrival of Bishop Canossa Tierfield of the Angel Church and Saint Svidak Marshal. Canossa, pale and weary, nervously greets them, admitting she is currently on the verge of death. The scene shifts to the Dragon Embassy, a vast and imposing space where the group walks toward a throne. The narration explains this is the embassy and mentions the one who summoned them, as their footsteps echo in the grand hall. Sitting elegantly on a throne, a woman with sharp eyes and a sly smile reveals herself as the hoarding dragon. She greets the visitors with a teasing tone, acknowledging their arrival with a confident, almost playful demeanor. Canossa Tearfield solemnly states it is their utmost honor to have been invited. The matter is clear. They have angered a dragon. The hoarding dragon sits confidently on her throne, her presence commanding. Canossa reflects that the only thing she can do now is, she pledges to plead for their lives with everything she has. Tears stream down her face as she cries out in desperation, refusing to accept death. Canossa Tearfield and a man stand before a throne as they face a seated woman with sharp eyes and a sly smile. Canossa nervously recalls an old tale about angels. A lonely angel, a storming angel, and the many tales of angels passed down among dragons. The man eating nearby explains that angels are always filled with jealousy, obsession, and ruin, like a jealous woman coveting what belongs to others. The woman on the throne warns that faith, when imitating the image one worships, is a terrifying thing. She asks Canossa if she has anything to say, but Canossa silently refuses. Canossa urgently apologizes to the hoarding dragon, explaining that by a tragic misunderstanding, they entered into a contract with her keeper. She insists there is a misunderstanding, declaring the man is not her keeper and that he lives as he pleases. The woman reflects that within his fragile, mortal body, desire swirls and he moves to fulfill it. She admits she chose not to keep him as a possession but to have him stand beside her. She questions if misjudging an impossible dragon is truly concerning for a human. The woman on the throne declares that one who lives freely, guided by inner desire, is her friend, and accuses the man of defiling that freedom. She vows to allow no one but herself to interfere with his path. Even if she must restrain herself, she condemns the act of shackling him with a filthy collar and demands the children of angels explain themselves. Canossa and the smaller figure listen in silence. The woman's sharp eyes narrow as she challenges them, asking if they wish to anger her. Her gaze is fierce and unyielding. She commands them not to make frightened faces, admitting the matter displeases her greatly but insisting she has no intention of destroying the entire angel church. She points to Canossa and the smaller figure, identifying one of them as the saintess who placed shackles upon her friend. Both Canossa and the smaller figure react with surprise. Canossa, sweating nervously, is told by the smaller figure to behead the woman herself, called a money grubber. Canossa silently acknowledges that she knew this would happen. No matter how cruel the choice is, she reflects that dragons enjoy forcing humans to make such harsh decisions, her hands trembling as she contemplates the weight of the moment. Canossa turns away, her face hidden beneath her headdress, while the woman with the large bow glares fiercely, accusing her of making Bishop Sama cry. The woman shouts SVI in distress, but the tall figure holding a brush commands silence, warning not to speak without permission. The man in glasses raises his cane sharply, demanding if this was the wish of the accused or if she is simply foolish. The woman with the bow is forced down, her face pressed into the ground, trembling and sweating. The man presses his foot down harder on the woman's head, questioning why a mere saintess would think she could stand beside a dragon. He demands how she will proceed, declaring that though she surpasses the ordinary, she is unfit to stand with a dragon. With a powerful strike, the man shatters the ground beside the woman. He orders her to atone with her life, looming over her as she curls up in pain, tears streaming down her face. The injured woman pleads for Bishop Sama to follow the dragon's words, insisting there are no choices left. The bishop, sweating and tense, grips a sword and is urged to hurry. She stands over the woman, conflicted but resolute. The woman apologizes, sorrowful that she couldn't fulfill the bishop's dream. The bishop's expression hardens as she silently accepts the weight of this failure, sword in hand. The bishop recalls the woman affectionately as my sweet SVI and my beloved friend. Memories flickering around her, she prepares for what lies ahead, gripping her sword tightly, acknowledging the coming challenge as a trial. The bishop declares the trial aloud, a test between the human world and the dragon realm, addressing the dragon as a proud maiden standing between these two worlds. The woman, defiant and tense, snarls that she dares to reject the trial meant for the one who has drawn attention for the dragon slayer. A figure seated on a throne gestures, declaring this trial's purpose. Her anger sharpens as she questions the right of others to measure what belongs to her, demanding if they presume to do so for his sake. The robed figure bows deeply, pleading for mercy and forgiveness from the dragon. Tears fall as the robed figure admits their actions were driven by love, foolishness, and ignorance. The woman on the throne listens silently, her expression unreadable as the confession continues. The robed figure, overwhelmed with emotion, vows that just as the dragon's attention is focused on the dragon slayer, their hearts are devoted as well, even threatening to rip the dragon's throat out. The woman on the throne calmly commands them to go on, while acknowledging the great existence beyond humanity that captivates and enthralls weak humans. The robed figure confesses that their actions stem from jealousy, envying the dragon slayer who monopolizes the dragon's attention. The woman acknowledges the truth in the confession, noting the gaze and voice are no longer on the empire but on the dragon slayer. She accepts this, declaring satisfaction with the situation and recognizing the foolishness of hoping to draw attention by approaching the dragon slayer. The woman declares that the saintess's head will suffice for forgiveness, but the robed figure vehemently refuses, begging to be burned alongside the saintess. Despite the plea, the woman demands silence and insists that even if it is hostility, if only for a moment, they could monopolize her attention. The woman questions if they sought to draw her attention, knowing it would anger her. She admits it was foolish but says even the anger is something they can scarcely obtain. She concedes to the request, agreeing to the burning alongside the saintess. The robed figure reacts with shock and calls out to her. The woman remarks that the dragon slayer wasn't as impressive as expected. The robed figure reveals the reward of 50 platinum coins, a sum that would take an ordinary person a lifetime to gather. The woman contemplates this, while the robed figure looks on anxiously. The dragon slayer is named, a man who, despite remaining human and not transcending humanity, managed to slay a dragon. The woman questions the disbelief that such a man could not gather 50 platinum coins, emphasizing the value of the contract made with him. Canossa demands SVI explain why she made a contract with the dragon slayer, pressing for the reason behind it. SVI reacts with surprise but remains silent as Canossa insists on an answer, stating the contract was precious. SVI reflects on the dragon slayer's calm acceptance of death and his gentle farewell to someone, saying it reminded her of Bishop Sama. She explains that she formed a contract to ensure no debts existed between them. Motivated by love, Canossa agrees, affirming the Angel Church's recognition of the dragon slayer's power and the importance of valuing equality as taught by the angels. Canossa proclaims their wish to witness the dragon slayer's future, affirming his form and way of being without reservation. She declares it an honor and insists that if a dragon protects him out of distrust in his strength, and if that draws their attention leading to their demise, they will have no regrets. She concludes by telling him his life is his to live as he wishes. She offers a prayer, asking the dragon to bless the dragon slayer with abundant light. She looks emotional as she speaks, then turns to Bernal, seeking his opinion. SVI watches silently, her expression tense and contemplative. The butler calmly states that this is the lady's complete defeat, suggesting that executing them here would only prove her words true. Canossa acknowledges this with a quiet compliment, noting that such an act would imply distrust in her friend's strength. The butler confirms that Naruhito is under his protection, and Canossa reflects on the decisiveness of their stance. She adds that those who drew the dragon's attention and perished for their love will be recorded as such. Canossa suddenly changes her mind, surprising Bernal. She declares that the way they will atone for their offense against her dragon slayer will not be through death, but by another means. Bernal eagerly accepts whatever Canossa decrees. She points out one thing only: the chaos Naruhito will bring to the city and country. She assigns the Angel Church the responsibility of handling the aftermath. Bernal questions the chaos, and Canossa confirms it, calling Naruhito an anomaly. She explains that he sends ripples across the lake, breaking what is complete and moving what is stagnated. She admits she has considered many things and knows he hates interference. Still, she wants to support him. So the Angel Church places adventurer Toyama Haruhito under Bernal's protection quietly. She instructs Bernal to watch over him while the contract binds her to him. Canossa declares the matter forgiven, expressing humble gratitude for the words spoken. Bernal bursts into joyful celebration, shouting their victory with exuberance. She confidently assures that protection and cleanup are no problem for them. Suddenly, a report from the runner arrives, drawing Canossa's attention. The report reveals that Naruhito has already run into trouble. Canossa reacts with surprise at the speed of the news, while another figure refers to someone as Money Grubber and entrusts them with the task ahead. A man confidently summons a massive, shadowy, serpentine form that coils and twists with immense power, dominating the space as another figure crouches nearby, bracing for what's to come. The dark, enormous appendages lash out violently, tearing through the air with destructive force, the sheer speed and impact shaking the ground beneath. The shadowy beast's gaping maw opens wide, looming over the man who stands calmly beneath, unfazed by the overwhelming threat. The man gestures calmly as the monstrous shadow crashes down nearby, sending a splash of debris and water flying, while the crouched figure struggles to steady themselves amid the chaos. The man praises Lazar's brutal skill as a massive shadowy serpent coils and writhes before him. He calmly acknowledges the creature as Hay's blade, watching it with steady focus. The shadow creature's eye gleams ominously as the man prepares to act. The man and a companion examine the defeated beast, noting its enormous size and the high value of its eyes. The man admits surprise that such a huge creature could be taken down by just the two of them. They discuss the profitable sale of the creature's other parts. The pair consider their next move, deciding to split up. One will guard the prize while the other fetches a cart or carriage. They exchange a silent understanding before the man calls out to someone nearby, signaling a new arrival. A confident armored man approaches, greeting them warmly and commenting on their well-being. The man asks what the adventurers want, but the armored newcomer tells them not to be so tense. Recognition dawns as the name Titanos Maya is exclaimed, revealing the identity of the defeated beast. The armored man scoffs, claiming even rank 1 adventurers struggle against the creature, and tells the newcomer to leave if they have no business here. The newcomer retorts that he hates hierarchy and has no respect for seniors lacking dignity. Nearby, a lizard-like figure warns the newcomer to leave the prey alone if he doesn't want to get hurt. The armored man advises the newcomer to listen to his senpai and calls this a good learning experience. A woman with a bow mocks the rookie, saying calling for help won't matter since the guards are on their side and they've already checked their surroundings. The newcomer stands silently, facing the threat. The newcomer tells the lizard-like companion that he heard the warnings and that it works for him. He then prepares to make things easier, summoning a dark, smoky tendril from the ground. The group stands tensely in the tall grass as the newcomer readies his move. The newcomer swiftly draws his sword, slicing through the tall grass near the woman with the bow, who reacts with surprise. The newcomer declares one down as the woman falls, and the others react with shock and alarm. The lizard-like figure suddenly grabs the woman with the bow from behind, holding a sword to her throat, silencing her. The newcomer turns in surprise, confused by the sudden attack. The woman collapses silently to the ground. The lizard-like figure admires the bow, calling it a nice weapon, while the newcomer cautiously draws his own bowstring, preparing to respond. An arrow suddenly flies toward the newcomer, who reacts with a sharp cry. He admits he aimed for the stomach but finds the bow harder to handle than expected. The man who is watching from the grass demands to know what they are doing, shocked that they haven't even touched him yet, and points out there is a woman involved too. The newcomer, Naruhito, contemplates the situation, noting the attackers seem to do this often and that getting tangled up again would be troublesome. He questions whether the opponent is male or female. The lizard-like figure declares they will take them all out, accusing Naruhito of robbery for aiming a bow and trying to steal their goods, reminding him that poaching prey is punishable by death under explorer law. The newcomer is met with a furious shout from the man. Naruhito dismisses the severity of the situation, sarcastically noting how thieves and extortionists anger him more than other crimes. He casually tosses his bow aside, warning them to stay back. The man panics and begs him not to come closer, fear evident as the newcomer advances, unshaken. The lizard-like man stands with arms crossed, while Naruhito hides in the grass, startled. The man grips his sword tightly, apologizing quietly. He admits that if he were stronger, he might have subdued Naruhito without killing him, and if braver, he might have spared him. Naruhito counters that this isn't true. He is weak, and without killing, he cannot make the man harmless. He confesses he is a coward. Sparing anyone would leave him fearing revenge forever. Behind him, memories of friends and allies flash briefly. The man on the ground panics, begging desperately for mercy, shouting he has a family and cannot die here. Naruhito stands silently, watching as the man pleads, swearing he won't seek revenge. He dismisses any concern with a cold, "Who cares?" gripping his sword tightly, declaring he can't let the man live. His shadowed face hardens, signaling his resolve. Raising the sword high, he smirks and says it's too late for mercy, preparing to strike down. Suddenly, a voice commands him to stop. He halts mid-swing, confused. As the man on the ground looks up in surprise, the voice orders him to aim right instead. Panic flashes across his face as a loud, piercing scream echoes. A figure is hurled violently through the air, landing with a heavy thud nearby, leaving him shaken and breathless. The air shimmers with a strange energy, drawing the attention of both the man and the lizard-like figure beside him. The man, sweating and confused, utters a shaky what, as a radiant symbol of angelic wings begins to manifest. Kneeling on the ground, the armored woman prepares to speak, her presence commanding despite her posture. By the wings of angels. The phrase echoes, heralding a powerful declaration. The armored woman rises, her voice ringing out with fierce conviction. As the proud first knight of the angel church, such brutality will not be overlooked. Tears glisten in her determined eyes as she stands resolute, ready to confront the injustice before her. A vast angelic wing-shaped mark spreads across the ground as the man with the sword and 2 others stand around it. He stammers in disbelief, asking, "What?" The armored woman urgently reaches out, shouting that this is not okay. Not okay at all. The armored woman insists that her falling from the sky is unimportant. The man questions if she really just fell out of the sky. She scolds him for ignoring the pleas for mercy, referencing recent violent incidents. The Crow incident, the murder of church gate guards, and now another. She warns him not to act so harshly, reminding him that Angel Sama teaches kindness. The man nervously explains a dangerous person has just appeared, causing the armored woman to panic and ask where. He reassures her not to worry, promising everything will be fine as long as he is there. The armored woman awkwardly admits that she almost got led astray by his crafty words. The man tells Laser to talk to her. While he is preoccupied thinking about bread recipes, the others react in surprise, questioning if she just said, "First Knight." A cheerful woman proudly declares herself the strongest knight and the greatest knight of the Angel Church, introducing herself as the First Knight, Stali Pura. Her enthusiasm is met with a nervous warning not to provoke her. A terrified man rushes to Stali, begging for help, claiming murderers are after him. She takes his plea seriously and demands to know what happened and if he is hurt. The man reveals that his companions were killed, including women who begged for mercy. Stali listens as the man continues, saying his family is also threatened. She points out 2 individuals nearby, ordering them to stay put, and declares the man under suspicion. She asserts her authority granted by Angel Sama and the Emperor to enforce the law. The lizard-like man asks Stali to hear their side, while the main man accuses them of lying and pleads for rescue. Stali acknowledges their words and demands they speak for themselves. The main man warns that these people can kill easily, while Stali remains poised, ready to judge the truth. A man calmly explains that after their hunt, their prey was nearly stolen, forcing them to defend themselves against 6 attackers with only 2 of their own. He warns that depending on what happened, the church knight may have to fulfill her duty as the sword of the Angel Church. The young knight, inspecting the scene, wonders if something caught fire from sprinkles or sparks. Suddenly, she realizes something did catch fire, causing the man to panic and call for help, while another voice mockingly calls it a bread lizard, and shouts that the accusations are lies. The man frantically insists that everything is lies and demands the church knight kill the criminals immediately. The knight, unfazed, cheerfully agrees, confidently claiming she knows exactly how to solve the situation. The knight sternly commands the 2 men to answer her questions from now on, warning that the moment one of them lies, there will be consequences. Both men look nervous and fearful as she asserts her authority. The church knight smiles with a chilling calmness, declaring she will kill the person who lied. The accused man stammers, unable to believe her words, while the knight firmly states her hatred for jokes and liars and commands to begin. The knight's companion senses danger, sharing a bad feeling about her. The knight closes her eyes in prayer, initiating the system's execution. The knight raises her hands, glowing with divine light, as she prepares to judge the bound man. She solemnly utters the word judge, signaling the start of her verdict. The knight's hands remain clasped in prayer as the scales of justice appear, shining brightly beside the man tied up with ropes, emphasizing the impending divine justice about to be delivered. The knight's solemn gaze fixes on the scales of justice as she commands the bound man to speak the truth. Her hands press together in prayer, invoking divine judgment. The scales glow intensely, illuminating the man's defiant smile beneath the noose. She questions him directly, whether he tried to steal prey and if he was struck down for it. The man, his face obscured by swirling patterns, denies everything. The knight warns that silence will be treated as a lie and demands an answer, her expression unyielding. The man gasps and stammers, desperately denying the accusations. The scales sway ominously as the weight of his words hangs in the air. His fear grows palpable as the noose tightens, the divine judgment imminent. The knight declares him a sinner, condemning his evil and pronouncing that evil must die. The man screams in terror, clutching his throat as the noose tightens. She turns away, dismissing him with cold finality, while the shadow of divine justice looms over him. The girl turns away with a cold farewell, calling the bound man a liar. Her cape billows as she walks off, leaving the man collapsed on the ground behind her. She glances back once, her expression unreadable. She reassures the 2 others that there is no need to be wary, declaring the liar exposed and them innocent. She explains that the Empire's laws allow self-defense during a hunt, apologizing for taking their time. Suddenly, she spots something and exclaims in alarm, identifying it as a Titanos Maya. The girl praises the handling of the creature, confirming it as the kind of prey people would steal. She bids the hunter good luck on the hunt. While the others exchange uneasy glances, acknowledging her dangerous nature, she waves cheerfully as she moves on. The girl asks if they could wait a little longer, addressing Naruhito and Lazar. Lazar remarks on Naruhito's nerve. While Naruhito looks reluctant, the girl smiles warmly, calling out to them again as they stand together. The girl firmly states she is searching for a certain person. She reveals the culprit behind the recent mass murder in the slums and the killer of the gate guards at the East Gate. The man and the lizard-like figure exchange a silent, tense glance. The girl smiles confidently, her resolve clear. She raises her hand, summoning a massive scale with a heavy hand symbolizing justice, towering over her small figure. The word justice echoes powerfully as she stands ready to confront the truth. The man tells her not to look so frightening. She reassures him with a warm smile, promising not to take much of his time. She asks him to answer her questions honestly, standing beneath the scales of justice as she prepares to begin.